Kamala Harris's attempts to put DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion at the center of her policies is destructive.
Uh-oh. Is anyone going to disagree with that? There's no way. Uh-oh. Dude, there are people that actually think DEI is good and awesome. Yeah, we need DEI. That's good.
How's it going, dude?
We love it.
Where do I get one of those hats?
Oh, my boy made it for me.
Nice.
So, yeah, you know, first of all, we're standing on stolen indigenous Tongva land, right? This is...
Not stolen, first off. Conquered. We conquered it. So pretty much my ancestors were awesome, and they just conquered everybody, and it was awesome, and it was badass, and W.
Moving anytime soon?
No, but
Why?
the fact of the matter is I'm born and raised California. We're talking about diversity, equity, and vision. We should.
So why don't
we absolutely should.
You could do it today, right now.
Great. We should, but that's not my point here. The point is you're saying that diversity, equity, inclusion is destructive.
Yes.
Right. So when we look at this country that is built off the backs of slavery and white supremacy, taking the lead, building the roots and
This is one of my favorite talking points. This country would not exist without slavery. Slaves built the entire country. The fact of the matter is, 90-something% of slave labor, as you guys know, was in the South. During the Civil War, the American Civil War in the 1860s, almost all of the wealth generated in the South as a result of the slave labor was destroyed. Like the South coming out of the Civil War was poverty-stricken. Okay, and it was pretty much relegated entirely to the South. And so in the North, especially, not especially, like literally all of the westward expansion was built without slavery. This idea that the entire country was built with slave labor, it's just not really true. And what was built was pretty much destroyed and the wealth was lost.
Foundations of everything that you know and believe today, it's ironic to see a Black and Indian woman who's rising up to the occasion against society, pushing them down. And this isn't just the fact that they're Black and Indian and a woman, it's the fact that
Can you give me an example of how society pushed Kamala Harris down, please?
The demographic of people is what I'm talking about.
Well, yeah, but you suggested that...
Oh, we've got Dean. Oh, we've got this kid and the other kid. We have both of them. Oh, nice. These guys are famous TikTokers or whatever.
Kamala Harris is being pushed down by society.
I'm not suggesting that, no.
I mean, that's...
So
Okay,
my
boss,
point is saying that...
I'm sorry, you've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Good to meet you. Whoa. Man.
Hey, Ben.
Hey, how's it going?
Nice to meet you.
Hey.
So my opening question to you would be, why is that a destructive thing? Why is that a bad thing when for a long time in this country, I feel personally that white men have had an advantage over some communities that have been discriminated against. So
Why is it a bad thing to hire or promote people based off of their race rather than their merit? Why is that a bad thing? Rather than picking the best person for the job, the smartest, the most intelligent, the most capable, whatever, with the most expertise, rather than doing that, we're just going to say, oh, you're Black and gay, so you're going to get the job. This is a terrible thing.
would you say that that is a destructive thing and not, making up for lost time?
Sure. So let me explain what I mean by diversity, equity, and inclusion. So the basic theory of diversity, equity, and inclusion is spelled out by people like Richard Delgado, who's sort of one of the founders of, for example, critical race theory.
Hold up, hey, is my mic low today? Dude, you might be right. Hold up here. Advanced audio properties, microphone. Is my mic low? I'm gonna crank it up a little bit. Okay, testing. That should be a little. That's better. That's probably perfect. Is that perfect? That's got to be perfect.
Is that essentially disparities equal discrimination. That if you see any disparity between one group in the United States and another group in the United States, that is the result of some exterior discrimination. It is not the result of individuals within that group acting differently. It's not the result of cultural differences. It's not the result of aggregated differences within individuals within that group. And that to me is a failure of logic. It also is destructive in that it separates group from group, particularly in the United States, on the basis of race, which is not the best way of actually bringing Americans together or forming policy that is the best for all Americans.
Do you think there's room for nuance, perhaps, though? Like, yeah, maybe not everybody, but there certainly has been a large sect of people that has had it harder because of the color of their skin or their sexuality or their gender identity. Could you acknowledge that maybe there's, a middle ground there where it's not all, but there is some people who certainly have had a disadvantage?
I will say that history has consequences.
By the way, gentlemen, we are back in the Just Chatting section on Kick. We are the #2 English stream. We are right behind smoking weed and promoting OnlyFans. So listen, guys, hey. You are not allowed to leave. If you have to go anywhere today, you are not allowed to close the tab. Zooklar in the chat, you guys are not allowed to leave. We need to keep on going up, keep on going up. If you have to go anywhere, go to work, go to school, whatever, leave the tab open, okay? I need as many of you. Yeah, you have to lurk, okay? You're not allowed to close the tab. We cannot allow this to continue. We're taking over. What I'm trying to say is we are taking over. This is not going to fly. The Stay Safe community is calling the shots around here now. Let's go. Let's go.
Consequences, obviously, and that if you are talking about historic marginalization of particular groups, that has consequences. The problem is that when you design policy in order to rectify for cosmic injustices or historic injustices, you actually have to try and measure out whether underperformance, say, economically, is due to those historic injustices. If so, how much? What is the corrective policy that is actually aimed at achieving best opportunity for all? The diversity, equity, and inclusion policies that are directed at separating race from race and then benefiting one race, for example, at the expense of another, ignore the fact that there are individuals within those groups, that history does not fall on everybody equivalent. Frankly, genetics and intelligence don't necessarily fall on an individual level, right? You and I, we don't look the same. We might have different heights. We might have different qualities. That is just the way that God or nature has bestowed skill sets on everybody. What exactly is the government supposed to correct for? And if you took this entire group and you separated it in half, just draw a line anywhere. It's a circle, right? Anywhere you draw a line, you're going to get disparities between the two groups on either side of the line.
There are people, I mean, probably a lot of the people that are surrounding Ben Shapiro right now, that, Lyrian, thank you again, genuinely believe nobody is more intelligent than anyone else. All people are equal in every single way. The only difference is systematic structural societal racism. So any discrepancy in performance between individual A and individual B is entirely relating to racial or discriminatory societal structures and not individual merit. It really is an insane outlook on life. It's fucking crazy. But I guess it's a very I can understand how people adopt this mindset if you are a loser. Like, if you are an underachieving loser, you've never accomplished anything, you've got a terrible work ethic, you never do anything, rather than come to terms with the fact that you are a lazy, retarded loser, you can just say, oh, well, the reason why I'm not a billionaire, the reason why I don't have a cool, fast car or money in my bank account, it's because of society. It's not me or anything that I'm doing wrong. It's not my lack of discipline or whatever. It's society that's keeping me down. If not for this bigoted society, then I would be a millionaire. It's just like a hypercopium worldview is what it is.
Line without regard to race, without regard to sex, and without regard to, for example, sexual orientation.
But does that mean that hasn't played an effect in that story at all?
I'm not going to. No, you'd be a fool to claim that again, past injustices have no effect on what's happened today. Thanks so much.
Whoa, goodbye.
Watching guys gear up to run is really entertaining.
Run.
That was so nice, everybody. Thank you.
You think that if they have to actually get up out of their chair and run to go talk to Ben Shapiro, this actually discriminates against fat people. This is discriminatory against fat people because fat people can't run as fast as thin people. That's fucked up.
So you believe that certain economic disparities between racial groups are caused as a result of cultural differences?
Sure.
And so what is the backing on this? What would you say contributes to your belief in that?
Okay, so not all cultures, for example, value studying in school the same. You can check this by the amount of hours that kids of particular cultures study. So, for example...
Why is he shaking his head? Does he think that all cultures value studying as much? Like, it is very painfully obvious certain cultures value studying and reading and being studious more than others. Like, we can compare Let's compare the culture that like Chinese immigrants have in America to urban Chicago culture, right? It seems like Chinese immigrants value studying and reading more than people living in urban Chicago. That seems to be the case. It seems pretty obvious.
Korean Americans study a lot more than, for example, Latino Americans in terms of the number of hours that kids study. It would be hard to suggest what to attribute that to other than sort of parental guidance and what exactly the priorities are of the parents. This is true, by the way, between white people. Okay, so when I talk about disparities between groups, you can talk about white Appalachia, and there are very different values with regard to studying than there are for, say, upper-class white Americans who are living in Brooklyn, right? That's not the exact same thing. So cultural differences are not just racial differences. I think that anybody who attempts to sort of clumsily map that on and pretend that that's all the same, that's obviously not true. But cultural difference.
I'm gonna push back a little bit. The white trash in Appalachia, they are studying just as much as the white people in whatever he said, Brooklyn. They're just studying different things. They are studying how to fix engines and make moonshine and how to build a house with a chainsaw instead of, long division or whatever the fuck. But still, they're studying. They're still smart people. They really are smart, ingenuitive people.
Differences do explain an enormous amount of group disparities.
They're studying
across
how to make
incomes.
how to make the
to
best.
take a perfect example, if you look at single motherhood rates, they're not equivalent across groups. So they're going to have massive differences with regard to outcomes for children. So if you're talking about cultural differences, again, cultural is just it was a rough way of saying how people act within a group on a large scale. And that is going to amount to some generalization, but that generalization is going to tend to, shall we say, concur. It's going to correlate very highly with outcome.
But culture is acclimated over time. It becomes a thing over time. And so do you not think that these historical disadvantages that certain ethnic groups have been through over time has created this culture in which they're unable to put themselves ahead? You do say that Asian Americans are more likely to study, yes, but we have to take into account that after the Chinese Exclusion Act, Asian Americans were given a certain type of reparations which allowed them into the country.
Congress repealed the Chinese Exclusion Act in 1943, establishing an immigration quota for China. Today, China remains the top country of origin for international students in the U.S. So here's the thing, though. Chinese are generally studious not just in the U.S., they're studious kind of wherever they go. Like Chinese people within China, living in China, their own country, they value studying and education and academic achievement much more than other cultures. It's still true. So this is not a consequence of something that happened in the U.S., really.
And in order for them, they were given visas, which allowed them to come into the... Yes, they were given easier processes into visas, yes, which allowed them into... No, it's a form of reparations, which they were once excluded from coming in. And so giving them an easier opportunity to attain these visas allowed them into the U.S. And mainly the individuals who were able to attain those were people with higher educations, which is...
So, first off, Water Enjoyer, thank you very much for the 10. That's a big deal. Thank you very, very much. Second off, the reason why this individual has a vested interest in framing the Chinese Reparations Act of 1943 as being reparations is because if everybody agrees that Chinese people got reparations in 1943, then she can segue on to making the argument that she should get reparations. It's the building block of what comes next. So she doesn't really care about Chinese people getting reparations in 1943. It's just a stepping stone to her getting reparations.
Which is why it may seem that Asian Americans within the country who come in typically with higher incomes as well as higher educational backgrounds, it may come off as that they are more studious than Latino Americans. But what we have to take into account is that Latin America and Hispanic people have faced a lot of tremendous setback due to historical atrocities. It's not their culture per se. What you see within...
Is there any individual agency in here, or is it all historic circumstance?
Everything is based off of history. Everything acclimates. Everything is an accumulation of history.
So to take the single motherhood example, for example...
The way...
So, by the way, I think Ben Shapiro actually has a super strong argument, okay, against this. All Ben Shapiro has to say is, listen, hey, I'm Jewish. Jewish people have been kicked out of 109 countries. We've gotten historically fucked. We've been hated. Anti-Semitism is one of the oldest forms of bigotry. Hey, and still, Jewish people are, super well read and they have high attaining jobs. They're in the legal field. They're in the finance industry, entertainment. Jewish people still do very well, despite being historically persecuted. So now what? And you know what? I think I would be very curious to see what she would say about that, because it's like, yeah, it's actually a reasonable counter argument, I think.
So that was fun anyway.
She would probably just call him white.
Whoa. Hey, how's it going?
I gotta say, I think it's fucked up for this white man, this young white man, Dean, to try to steal a seat from a proud black trans woman. That was actually fucked up of him. That was not cool.
Hey, how's it going? How are you? Good to meet you.
So your basis is saying that culturally people don't have the same advantages, right?
I'm saying that not every culture sort of initiates the same action within groups.
So in part, you're saying that you're part of each culture. You know what goes on in each culture to say these things.
No, I'm saying that I can analyze the activities of a particular group with reference to their actual behavior.
So if you go into my culture, we're told that we can achieve anything through hard work. We have to work 10 times harder. But you're not part of our culture, so you're explaining something that doesn't have to do with you. But in turn, you're saying that that culture, unfortunately, does not value the same thing that the next culture does.
So revealed preference tends to be a better way of doing social science than subjective perception. So revealed preference is how people act in the world. So for example, if you have one group of people who say, we really, really value our kids studying, and then their kids don't study at all, that would be a revealed preference.
Okay.
Everybody has.
Can I ask, do these hats, do they clip on? Are they clip on? Or do they just gently rest upon your head? How do you get this hat to fucking stay on there? You have tape? How do you know? How do you know? L'chaim. L'chaim, my Jewish viewers. L'chaim.
But then when you have
reason to
people
study.
who say in corporate America, you have people who value nepotism versus actual studying hard. What is that called then?
Okay, so the idea that people generally value nepotism over studying hard, I'd like to see the evidence of that, given the fact the vast majority of wealth in this country is not created through nepotism or through inherited wealth.
But Donald Trump was given nepotism, was he not?
I mean, he's.
But here's one example. But what about this? But what about my anecdote? But what about this one thing?
One example among a bajillion people who are very, very wealthy in this country. I'm very wealthy now. I certainly wasn't born very wealthy.
But then you can't speak on Donald Trump's experience, can you
that
not?
happens to be the case.
Oh my God.
Okay, I mean, you can laugh at my particular history, but I grew up in an 1,100 square foot home in Burbank, California, with 4 siblings in 1 bedroom.
In Burbank, hold on.
Go ahead.
In Burbank, I'm sorry, but in Burbank versus growing up in South Central, being told that you have to excel 10 times harder than the next person, but then you're not part of the culture, to say that you can actually come to these disparities is kind of far-sighted.
Dude, this person is actually a retarded person.
I mean, the idea that you have to work 10 times harder coming from South Central based on, for example.
Dude, and by the way, okay, all Ben Shapiro, like, I think when you're confronted with this level of idiocy, I think you have to match it. No, you have to go further. Like, what Ben Shapiro should say here is, well, listen, you were raised that you have to work 10 times harder to achieve what everybody else does. I was raised that I have to work 100 times harder to achieve what everybody else does. I was told I've got to do 100 times more. That's how I was raised. And it's like, I think you just have to stoop. You have to stoop to the idiot level and then make them grapple with it. I think that's the best way to do this.
Test score is obviously not true. We've had affirmative action programs in this country for solidly 40 years.
But now affirmative action is gone. It's out the door.
Thank
Now
God, it was a bad
DEI
program.
is present. DEI is actually saying that we need to have diversity, equity, inclusion. So you're actually putting a footing in the door for different races, different genders, different women, different men, everything. So now you're saying that because this program is gone, this one isn't.
Sorry, you've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Cool. Let's go.
Yeah, like a jackrabbit. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that.
Hi,
how's it going? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So, I kind of want to shift the conversation about DEI a little bit away from culture because I don't know if that's necessarily like a helpful conversation to have, and I really want to talk.
Dude, I'm loving what I see. I'm loving what I'm seeing. I love the dog collar. I love this.
More about representation So 1 in 5 Americans currently is Hispanic. This country, like it or not, is not a homogenous country. We are a very diverse country. Do you not think that our legislators should be representative of the overall population?
I don't see a way that you can have a quote-unquote representative legislature with 435 members of Congress in a country of 340 million people, because you can divvy that up however you want. It's not by race. You can do it by sex.
I would ask her, okay, if you want racially representative or ethnically representative politicians, how do you propose we do that? Because right now people just get to vote. Right now, actually, we live in a democracy. People just get to vote for who they want to represent them, right? So if you're not comfortable with people voting, if you think that's not good enough, then what in the communism, what type of communistic protocol do you think we should have?
You could do it by gender, you could do it by sexual orientation. How exactly do you decide what is quote-unquote the representative group? And also, I don't believe that individuals ought to be represented based on group identity. So, for example, I'm Jewish. Jews are actually overrepresented in Congress. I don't think that, that we ought to decide exactly how many people in Congress are Jewish based on the Jewish population of the country. I think that's actually a pretty silly way to do representation.
Well, we don't have to do it systematically, but fundamentally there is an issue with the fact that we are not fully represented. Like, the entire population is not represented. We have never had a black female president. I still have to pay taxes.
We've never had a
the
Jewish
whole
president.
concept is no tax.
Then get people to vote for one. Like, you can just vote. Just go vote. If, like, what do you think should happen?
We have had a white male president. We've had like 45 of them.
We need more. We need more white male presidents. We love white male president W. We love them. In fact, I voted for one recently. Just 3 days ago, I voted for a white male president. It was awesome.
Whether Jews count as white or not has been sort of an object of debate for quite a while. We do. Okay.
You do.
So, I mean, it depends according to whom, and that's a pretty recent development. Okay, so
basically everyone. It's a religion.
Judaism
do you not agree that you are a white man?
I mean, I think that it depends on the context in which you're discussing it.
So what are you, Ben? Are you not a white guy?
I mean, I'm a man of Jewish ethnicity, which is sometimes grouped with white and sometimes not. I mean, that's the more accurate way to put it. But when
what
we're
else
talking
would you
about
be grouped with?
What he's saying is that he is white when it is expedient for him. So depending on the situation, he's a white man. If it's beneficial, if it's not beneficial, and in this case it's not beneficial to be lumped with the evil white man, then now he's not white. Then he's a Jewish man.
With Jews, who are which is an ethnicity. I mean,
so you're not white at all.
I mean, again, it depends who's doing the grouping and how. I've seen Jews grouped with white and Jews grouped with not white. Are we just pretending that doesn't exist? That's a reality. However, as far as your generalized point, which is that we are supposed to identify people by group identity, that if we don't have a black female president, somehow black females have not been represented. So Barack Obama was in no way representative of black females because he's not a female.
No, he was. He was representative,
so
but
he was
that's
half
the point.
representative. How do you do the math on this? And why?
You shouldn't do the math on it completely statistically, but the fact is,
you shouldn't do the math on it at all. You should treat people as individuals. You should.
She was just giving stats. She was the one giving stats, and then he tries to push back and try to understand her retarded stat approach here. And then she says that you actually shouldn't do it that way.
Treat people as individuals.
Well, if you don't even want Kamala Harris to attempt to create DEI initiatives in office, then there isn't even going to be a conversation about it.
I mean, I don't think there ought to be a conversation about why we ought to be represented by race or by sex. I think that we are each individual people with individual ideas, and if that person represents my ideas, I don't care what sex, race, or sexual orientation they are.
I mean, to an extent, yes.
No, entirely.
But there is an issue with the lack of empathy in office. We need to be able to empathize and legislate for the people that are living in this country.
I was not
Do you
aware,
not believe that?
I was not aware that empathy is relegated to particular race solidarity.
No, but I mean, it's easier to be empathetic towards people whose experiences you can fundamentally understand based on your identity. Like, do you not believe that people have an inherent bias?
Oh, dude, now she's making the argument that it's easier to be empathetic towards people that look like you. Is that true? Dude, wow, I've never thought. Is that true? Do you think that's true, that it's actually easier to be empathetic? Because that's like what the entire concept of racism is built on, right? Is that you feel a kinship or an affinity towards people that look like you, and people that don't look like you care about them less. That's just kind of like the basic fundamental of racism.
So first of all, I'm not sure, I mean, we can start with empathy itself. I'm not sure that empathy is always the best basis for actual public policy, because when you have group solidarity and empathy based on group solidarity, you're going to attempt to actually benefit the group with whom you have solidarity. So that actually cuts against generalized public policy.
But that's like a fundamental thing that just exists, which is why we need representation in government. Okay, cute. Thank you.
Goodbye. Whoa.
Well, he got it this time. All right,
got it.
nice. Good to see you. How are you doing?
Doing all right. How are you, Ben?
You know, it's been a day.
Yeah, it's a little bit of like an interesting setting being surrounded by 20 people that disagree with you.
I mean, the truth is I grew up in LA and then I went to law school in Cambridge, so,
So
I'm
you
a
had a lot
little
more
used to
than
it. It's
20.
yeah, I've been here before.
Anyways, let's talk about DEI. Do you think that Trump should have won 2016? I'll wrap it in. It's conceptually relevant. I'll demonstrate the relevance.
Okay.
Dude, this kid is such a this kid, man, dude, this kid. Also, the question: do you think that Trump should have won the election in 2016? There's no should have or shouldn't have. It's like you either won, people voted for you, you won the election, or you didn't. Right? It's up to the will of the people.
Okay, sounds good. By what measure? Do I think he did win, or do I think he should have won?
Do you think he should have won?
I mean, yes, I'm happy that he won. If the question is, am I happy that he won? I'm happy that he won.
Okay. Well, I'd say that Trump won 2016 because
By the way, I did not vote for either candidate in 2016. That's a decision made in retrospect.
Awesome. So I think that Trump won 2016 because of a modality of DEI. Essentially, what I'd say is the Electoral College, right, strives for inclusion of smaller states with lower populations by overrepresenting them in the overall vote. Like, you could correct me if I'm wrong, or the SAN fact checkers can. I'm pretty sure that over the last 25.
Having an electoral college is the same as hiring an unqualified person just because they happen to be gay and black. That is the argument right now. Excellent. Okay, I follow.
30 years, Republicans have won the presidency given the Electoral College, not given the overall popular vote. So if you're against DEI, if you don't want inclusion on the basis of race, inclusion on the basis of gender, or even what you're saying earlier, we could even say inclusion on the basis of class, why do you want inclusion on the basis of population, rural areas, states,
We should actually use a better
in the
example. Why don't you just
Electoral
ask if I
College?
believe in the U.S. Senate? Right,
The U.S.
is a
Senate,
better
this would
example.
also apply to the U.S. Senate.
Right, okay, so let's use the U.S. Senate because the U.S. Senate is actually even more unrepresentative of the general population than the Electoral College, which is at least a rough approximation.
It'd just be funnier to hear you say that you shouldn't have voted for Trump in 2016. But we could talk about the
I mean,
Senate as well.
that's a different subject, but
Yeah.
I'm very happy that he won, even though I didn't vote for him. I mean, we can talk about Trump later.
Yeah.
We've already done a bit. Well, I'm sure we'll do more. As far as the idea that every elected body has to be elected based on population as opposed to based on the area of geographic distribution or the states that actually pre-existed the federal government. Okay, the way that the Constitution of the United States was created was as a contract between sovereign states, which is one of the reasons why, for example, you have a United States Senate as opposed to just a House of Representatives. So is that a form of DEI? That seems like a stretch to me. The kind of DEI that I'm talking about specifically would be separating human beings based on inherent characteristics, like, for example, race, as opposed to suggesting that the United States Senate, which is obviously unrepresented.
Let's just get this out here, okay? The opinions of rural country people are more important than the opinions of urbanoids. And if you say that that is hypocritical, or if you say that that's contradictory, then you know what? Fuck you. I embrace the contradiction. I embrace the hypocrisy. Hey, you can't just... Yes, I can. Yeah, yes, I can. Fuck you. Yeah. Country people are the best people. They are better. And getting rid of the Electoral College, which is essentially getting rid of their voice, if we don't have an Electoral College, then... I mean, you guys have heard this trope a million times. Then everybody that lives in California and New York decides the entire fate of the nation based off of the population density of the country right now. Does it seem like a good idea to have Californians and New Yorkers decide the entire fate of the country? And telling people in Nebraska how they should live their life and telling people in Idaho how they should live their life? No, it doesn't. Because country people are smarter and more pragmatic than urbanoids. And if you don't like it, then you just haven't met enough country people because they are the best. They're awesome. They are based. They're just the best.
Representative of the general population.
Well, seemingly my point is
somehow
that this
bad.
is
That's
just
a check and balance, right?
Well, seemingly my point is that this is another modality of DEI. I've no problem with you explaining to me, right, why the Senate or the Electoral College would be given the U.S. Constitution and some contractual agreement that they had between the sovereign states. That's fine. But what I'd say is that your claim here would just imply that the Constitution upholds DEI within our electoral processes.
If your claim is
so, do you think that the Constitution upholds DEI in the sense of including smaller states with less representative populations?
That is a true stretch of the meaning of DEI. But I get your point. I mean, if the idea is that the only thing that is not pure DEI in a democratic context would be sort of popularly represented votes, then I think you can make the case that basically you should get rid of every representative institution. We should go to a pure democracy because.
Well, I'm not making a
otherwise-
case for what we should replace it with. I'm making the case that it would uphold DEI. We could talk about, right, what other systems should function in the case of the Electoral College or in the case of the Senate, but that's a completely different conversation than are these systems upholding DEI.
So again, I think that you're definitionally stretching DEI. If DEI is the basic idea that all disparities equal discrimination and must be rectified by government interventionism, which is sort of the definition, then stretching that to mean the Electoral College seems like you're going pretty far afield to defend a very broad concept as specifically badly applied.
Wait, 1 second. I don't think that we need to say that DEI is equivalent to disparities equal discrimination. We could just see that DEI is like a qualm for disparities in general, right? And what we apply here in this certain modality when we're talking about the Electoral College, when we're talking about the Senate, is we're trying to qualm the disparities of the lack of population.
Probably the absolute easiest way just to dunk out on this kid is to say, you know what? I'm not a fan of the Electoral College. I don't have a problem with it, by the way. I'm fine with the Electoral College. I think it exists for a reason. I think it exists for a good reason. But if you just want to completely shut this little douchebag down, you just say, yeah, you know what? I don't know why you're asking me about the Electoral College. I'm not even a fan. We should have a popular vote. And then what he would say is, oh, well, if we didn't have an Electoral College and it was just a national popular vote, then Democrats would win every election by a margin of, 2, 3, 4 million people, as we've seen in the last couple elections. But then the obvious counter argument is, well, actually, if the win factor for the presidential election is no longer Electoral College votes and now it's national popular vote, then the candidates would campaign differently. Okay, so you can't look at what has happened in the past under a different win condition and project that into the future and say, okay, this is what would happen. Because then, if it was a national popular vote and not Electoral College votes, you would have Hillary Clinton campaigning in Texas. You would have Donald Trump campaigning every week in California and New York and trying to sway the minds of these. You would have Donald Trump visiting Seattle. You would have Donald Trump visiting Portland. You would have Kamala Harris visiting Dallas, Texas, and visiting Tampa and whatever, like all of these more conservative areas, right? So the entire playing field would be different. The rule set is different. And so looking at what has happened in the past and trying to, it's like totally L argument, right?
In rural areas. We're trying to qualm the disparities of smaller states compared to larger states. And seemingly, you haven't really given me a response to this apart from calling it a stretch, but I do appreciate you for
No, I mean, it seems to me like the argument that you're making is that in order for there to be calm and sort of conciliation inside the United States, particular racial groups have to be given particular benefits. Okay, because that was the argument with regard to the states in the United States, right? When the Constitution was formed, the way that you came to an actual agreement in the Constitutional Convention is states were not going to sign on unless they got particular guarantees of the interests of those particular states, right? So if you're
that is true. So this is very, very important to mention. As the U.S. started to expand west, new states like I don't know the exact like Oklahoma or Idaho or something. I think it happened further east than that, but new states didn't want to join the United States, the Union, because they felt like, well, we only have 15,000 people living in our state right now, and we're all frontiersmen, and we're like, we don't really have any big cities. We're a very small state compared to New York or Pennsylvania or Virginia, whatever the older colonial states. We don't want to join the Union because if we do, then we're going to have no say in how the country's run. So maybe we'd be better off doing our own thing. And then the Union, the older, more colonial states, they said, listen, actually, let's make a deal. We're going to have something that's called the Electoral College. You're going to have a population proportionate representation every time we vote for a president. And then also you're going to have 2 senators, an equal number of senators to the bigger states, New York, Virginia, Vermont, Maine, whatever. And that was kind of and then they said, yeah, okay, you know what, that's fair. Okay, we're going to join the Union now. Okay. And so you can make the argument, if we didn't have the Electoral College, we would not have a United States of America, or at least, let me open up Google Maps here. If we didn't have an Electoral College, the United States of America would not expand further west than Illinois, probably like something like that, right? Because these states, Kansas, Nebraska, the Louisiana Purchase states, stuff like that, they would not want to join the Union because they would have fucking no representation at all. They'd say, fuck it, I'm not joining. Fuck that. I'm going to make my own country of Nebraska, and it's going to be awesome. And we're going to grow corn, and methamphetamine is going to be legal. and fuck the United States of America. That's what would have happened. That actually is what would have happened.
If you're claiming that that's DEI, then the response that I would have is right, because that's how you have to come to an agreement. So if you're going to make the parallel argument with regard to DEI in, for example, the racial context, you then have to make the case that the only way that you can have conciliation in the United States is for particular racial groups to be given specific racial benefits, and otherwise the country is going to split apart.
Captain SS. Captain SS, thank you very much for the 5 gifted subs. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, brother. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Which is an argument with which I generally disagree, even if I agreed with the way the Constitution was formed.
God, holy
Yeah,
fuck.
so I mean, I don't see like your parallel here, right? I think that DEI could exist in multiple modalities. My argument in a nutshell is nothing more than the fact that we see disparities existing in rural areas compared to metropolitan areas. We see disparities existing in the size of a state and its overall population, and you're qualming these, and you're
Right, but the DEI
losing the
DEI response to that would not be
like through like an over representation.
And the DEI
I
response-
understand that your argument is, but my single-handed point here is that you would say, in some sense, that this is a reconciliation to introduce more, not diversity, inclusion in the sense of a state to state in their population. I mean, so if you'd make the concession that this is DEI, would you say in the same sense that we shouldn't have?
I don't make
other
the concession
DEI
that falls within the
okay.
definition of DEI that I've used. And if your claim is that I'm now in favor of, for example, subsidies to rural areas at the expense of urban areas, I'm not actually.
So do you think
in
that
favor of
DEI would only
fundamentally.
apply in the context of race?
No, it could apply in the context of class. It could apply.
Okay,
in
if
the
it could apply in the context of race,
identity.
class, and identity, why can't it apply in the context of a state's population and their representation in our government?
I mean, if they were to receive special bennies at the expense of other members of the population,
they
on the
are.
basis of state
They
population.
are. Yes, like Alabama or Arkansas are literally receiving special benefits insofar as a greater level of representation in our Senate and in electoral processes compared to people in California. I mean, for instance, that's my my buddy Parker over there. He lives in California, right? And
I'm fully aware of how the
live in
Electoral College and
Colorado.
the Senate work, dude.
So I literally have more representation person for person in the sense of Parker's vote compared to my vote because individualistically speaking, I'm from a...
I'm going to be honest, man. I think Ben is not doing a good job at arguing against this little shitbag. I think Ben is floundering here. All Ben has to say, listen, when we talk about DEI in the public discourse right now, we are talking about people that are being hired for jobs based off of their race or sexual expression or whatever that is undermining meritocratic hiring or promotional or professional career advancement, like protocols, right? That is the problem. Have you trying to obfuscate that conversation by talking about the Electoral College and this and that? That's not what anybody else is talking about.
State that has more representation, and the same thing could be said for multiple other states across America, especially in the Senate. There's
having a
2
tough time
senators that
getting
represent me and everyone else in Colorado, and there's 2 senators that represent him and the millions more people
How are you
in
getting from point
California.
A, which is that California has 2 senators and Colorado has 2 senators, to point B, which is that we should have incredible racial carve-outs on the basis of group identity at the behest of the federal government? That is a very, very large stretch. And to get from point A to point B on the basis of the constitutional structure seems like you're going pretty far afield. I appreciate what you're trying to do, but the rubber band only goes so far.
That's the end of this claim.
That's great.
Goodbye.
I appreciate you, man. Hopefully we could talk more.
I hear what you're saying.
Goodbye. Yo, you cooked him, bro. I actually do know who I'm voting for. I know who I'm voting for. Let's go. Michigan. Ooh.
My next claim is that Kamala Harris's extreme pro-abortion stance is morally indefensible.
Ooh. In 15 years, Whitey will need DEI. Well, you know what? Let me ask you a question, okay? If you flash forward 40 years and white people are 25% of the population, they are a racial minority, do you think that there will be DEI agendas to promote and hire white people? Do you think people are going to say, well, we don't have enough white people in our business? Yeah, I don't think so. I suspect not. What's going
on, dude?
Meet you, man.
Hey, good to meet you. Okay, so I just want to clarify the claim because,
sure.
okay, so the claim that I'm making about Kamala Harris, let's first say like what I believe her position to be. Okay, so she has not stated any abortion law that she would not veto. right? So the Partial Birth Abortion Ban Act, for example, or late-term abortion bans, she would presumably veto that as President of the United States. That's the position that I'm taking in this particular prompt. Okay, so that is the position that I find morally indefensible. Okay, so again, I'm a very, very pro-life person, but I can see at least the sort of nuanced arguments that some people on the left try to make about abortion, even if I disagree with those arguments. The argument that she's making, which is effectively abortion until birth should be in no way regulated, I find that to be morally indefensible.
My understanding right now is that a majority of Democrats would not support abortion through birth.
Oh my God.
My understanding is the more popular position. I don't think any state lets you go through birth. Maybe I'm off on that. Maybe there's a couple.
California and New York, actually.
Okay, understood. But yeah, I think the key claim is basically, I think most Democrats would want abortion within the first few weeks prior to the development of my personal moral starting point of life, is that the mind is the seat of consciousness, the brain is is where your self is. If you replace your heart, you have a robo heart, you're chilling. If you replace your brain, you're a different person, you're dead. And I think that when that brain first starts to develop.
This is my take here. I think some conservatives would maybe call me a progressive on this if I say this, but I'm going to say it nevertheless. I think arguing about abortion is a losing topic for Republicans right now. And I think as such, I think the best thing you can say if you're questioned about this as a conservative is just say, listen, hey, I stand by the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Let people vote for it on a state level. Vote for it, state level. That's where it should be. Let people vote on a small local scale. Abortion access has been democratized as a consequence of the overturning of Roe v. Wade, and that's where I think it should stay on a state level. Vote for it. If you're a progressive in California, vote progressively. If you're a conservative in Nebraska, vote conservatively. And let the best idea win on a state level, though. Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest, just like, shut it down. That's where it should be.
That's sort of where I see the beginning of life and where the fetus gets their first moral consideration.
Good,
would you agree that abortion before that point is tolerable?
No, I don't agree with that. But again, quick question, just as far as defining the positions.
Yeah.
So would you agree that late-term abortion is indefensible?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, that's not my position. I would not support that.
So you actually agree with me.
So I have friends and family in real life, people that I know in real life, people I went to high school with. I see them post on Facebook, whatever. There are a lot of people that actually genuinely think you should be able to abort an 8.5-month-old fetus. It's a baby at that point. If I'm a woman and I am 8.5 months pregnant, my due date is 2 weeks from now, I should be able to abort the baby and kill it because that's my prerogative. It's my body. I know people that actually genuinely think that. Like those people exist. It's fucking evil. It's fucking insane.
On the prompt. Okay, so now we get into the broader abortion conversation. That's fine. I mean,
no worries.
That's totally cool. So yes, no.
Do you feel that a majority of Democrats support through the moment before birth?
A majority of Democrats have not supported any abortion legislation on the federal level in my entire lifetime, nor do I suppose that they will. So if there were to be a consensus 15-week abortion ban, for example, which is about the status in Europe, I would assume that virtually all Democrats would vote against that 15-week abortion ban. So I may agree with your more moderate position, or at least use that as a starting point. That is certainly not where the Democratic Party historically has been, nor is it where the Democratic Party is right now.
Awesome, understood. And just to understand where you begin your moral consideration for a fetus.
Where I consider it?
Yeah.
At conception. Right, so I believe in life, that life begins at conception. You now have a human being with potential, not a potential human being. And then the question is exactly what the moral value of that human being is. Once you acknowledge that there is, in fact, a countervailing interest to, for example, a woman's quote-unquote right to choose, once you acknowledge there's an independent interest.
Sure. Thank you so much for your time, Ben.
That's going to piss them off a lot. Who's coming up? Oh!
You made it. You're good. You can relax.
Watch out, she's running. Earthquake.
Hello.
Earthquake.
Nice to meet you. Oh, wow, you look better in person.
Slow down,
okay,
Tashika.
I don't often get that, so thank you.
Okay, it's fine. How do you define abortion really quickly?
Abortion would be the forcible termination of an unborn human life.
Yes, but why do you hold that definition? Would you not assume something like a C-section would be considered an abortion?
No, because the baby is born alive. So how would that be an abortion?
What does the definition of abortion have to include the death of a fetus?
Because that's literally the definition of abortion.
What the fuck? Are you retarded?
It literally is.
What the fuck?
Where are you getting this definition from?
Where are you getting your definition from?
Let's go.
Do you speak Latin? Do you know what a fetus means? Do you speak Latin? Do you know? Do you know the etymological origin of the word fetus? Do you know?
Do you remember? Do you remember Charlie Kirk? Oh man.
To like what, like, do you like fucking like Mayo Clinic, like any fucking like hospital you've ever gone to before?
A C-section ends with the birth of the child.
Right, but
I know.
but abortion,
both I and all three of my siblings were born via
generally.
C-section.
Yeah, I understand this.
I'm here. I'm talking to you.
Thank you.
Thus I was not aborted.
I understand this, but like yes, but like no. Well, yes, but like no. But no, you could simply say that abortion is simply the ending of a pregnancy, right? So the ending of a pregnancy outside of the natural
can't say that.
Birth of a fetus. So I don't see that. I don't see why you would say that like it would have to end in the death of a fetus, which is why I'm pro-abortion all 9 months, right? Because say if a woman is not able to pass a fetus in the natural way, we could have these other abortion.
Well, you see, I've redefined apples to mean oranges, and I've redefined oranges to mean apples, and I've redefined poo-poo to mean pee-pee, and I've redefined pee-pee to mean poo-poo. And now nothing has it. It's like, bro, bitch, that's not the definition. What are you talking about? The fuck are you
that would say
talking about?
like, okay, like she needs some type of induction that doesn't include the actual natural expulsion of a fetus. But it doesn't always end in the death of a fetus. So I don't see how you could say that Kamala Harris' stance is immoral in this sense.
They go to extremes. My mom had 4 of us all through C-sections. Yeah, like I believe that because as far as I understand it, if you're a woman and you have 1 C-section, every other pregnancy you have is like also going to need to end in C-section. Like if you have 1, then they all need to be C-section going forward, right? Because like your abdomen doesn't have the strength to like push a baby out if it already has an incision scar right there.
I just don't understand.
In fact, I would bet also, like, if you're a woman and you've had your appendix taken out, maybe you need to have C-sections also, right? Because I don't know how the appendix surgery is these days. I had mine out in like 2004, and I have a big ass scar. My scar is like that long. So if I were to try to give birth, if I transitioned into a woman and I took Thailand HRT estrogen hormone pills that I bought on the deep web, and I took them, and then I got pregnant from my trans boyfriend, who's also trans, and then I tried to give birth. I think I would need to have a C-section probably.
And how you're removing the death of the fetus from the equation about abortion. That's literally the entire moral issue. You and I would not even be arguing if we were talking about C-sections or about natural birth.
But it seems like at its core, though, we disagree on what the inherent definition of abortion is.
You could leave away. We could very easily solve this. Let's just not talk about the word abortion. Let's talk about the forcible termination of a baby.
Okay. So then, what do you value in the fetus then?
The life of the fetus.
The baby.
Okay. So then, what is
the life of the baby?
Conception?
Yes.
And why is that?
Because that is literally the biological definition of when an independent life begins.
Yes, but like, why does it have moral value?
It has moral value because that's literally the biological definition of when a human life begins.
Right, but like, why does that have moral value though?
Okay, why does any life have moral value?
I would value sentience.
But why?
Right, because
based on what?
This is simply what we.
How do you define sentience? What if my brother who has Down syndrome is my Down syndrome brother sentient? What if my Down syndrome brother gets put in a coma and he's been comatose for 2 days? He's been in a coma for 2 days and the doctors think he's going to come out of it. They really think he's going to come out of it. Everybody's optimistic, but he's in a coma right now and he's not sentient right now. What if I'm taking a nap? When I'm sleeping on a nice warm summer afternoon in my backyard, I'm not sentient. Can you kill me? Because I'm not sentient? Define sentience. What do you mean by that?
Value like you and I value. Like, is it okay to like unplug like a brain dead patient, for example?
I mean, the question is whether it's okay to unplug a brain dead patient. Actually, quite a controversial one in sort of religious circles.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as why, I'm just wondering if somebody's in a coma and you know they're going to wake up. Do you have the right to unplug them?
Well, coma's not brain dead though. We know that there's future sentience there. Like it would be like a matter of like a conjunct of like past, future. Like past, present, or future sentience. But like a person in a coma has.
I agree, and guess what? Fetuses also have guaranteed future sentience.
Well, no, because you're only valuing one half of the conjunct. That's not right. So it would be past, present, or future.
Now you're changing the topic. I mean, we started with what's the value of the fetus.
Thank you so much,
dude. She is so fat and so retarded, and she has no idea. This is like peak absolute definition of Dunning-Kruger. She thinks she owns. She thinks she's like, yeah, I just cooked Ben Shapiro. That's me. I'm her. I just cooked Ben Shapiro, bitch. No, you're retarded. You're a retard.
Thanks a lot.
Oh man.
Whoa! You know what? You're not. just for honest to God, just for that I forfeit. That's like some serious efforting right there. Well done.
I'll take
really well done.
Thank you. Yeah, so on the topic of abortion, I think we have a big focus on the moral aspects of abortion, but I do think we should talk about the legal aspects of life, because when a baby is born, two things happen: birth certificate, social security card. When there are fetus, when it's like cells in the body, you don't get the birth certificate, you don't get a social security card because it's not alive, it's not born yet. Therefore, when it comes to like the moral repercussions of having abortion, I feel like that's very different than legally, because if a cluster of cells in a woman was equivalent to a baby, I should be able to have tax deductions on that kid. I should be able to have child care from the government. I should be able to have child support from the father. But since like the clusters of cells is in fact not a baby, I feel like.
Why am I not able to get child support and shit when I'm 1 month pregnant? How come when I got my little baby bump, I'm not getting child support? Where's my government benefits? Where's my tax deduction and shit? I'm 1 month pregnant. What's up with that? Where's my money?
Like,
where's my money?
You can say whatever, but legally, a clusters of cells is not like.
So sort of hiding behind the legal positivist position, I think, to shield against the morality here is a problem, and I'll tell you why. Okay. So when it comes to, first of all, don't threaten me with a good time. I'm perfectly happy to have people pay paternity for children that are currently in utero. Like that's fine with me. In fact, I think that'd be quite good. I think it would incentivize fathers to stay with the mothers and actually be more responsible. But if we're talking about,
if you could do that. Okay, I am no longer conservative-based Staysafe. I am now super insanely progressive Portland, Oregon, San Francisco, California progressive woman. What I would do is I would call, it's going to be called abortion maxing. I would be abortion maxing because I would get pregnant. I'd be pregnant for 3 months. I would abort it. But during those 3 months, I would be getting government benefits and money from the father. I would get pregnant. I'd get money for 3 months, abort it, get pregnant again, abort it. I would abort a fetus every 3 months, and the entire time I'd be getting government money. It would be, yeah, that's what I would do. You'd have abortion maxers. In fact, I think there's actually is there a South Park? Yeah, I think there is. Hold up. South Park Cartman abortion. Where is it? No, it's the one where he's a wrestler. Is this it? Maybe this is it.
And now back to more kids who are out of control on the Mary Poppins Show. Our next mother is Leanne Cartman. Her son claims to be the most out of control kid in the world and says there's nothing his stupid mom can do about it.
Aww. Why won't you kids behave? Shut up, Steak! He's not talking to you!
So, Miss Cartman, you can't control your child?
Oh, my little Pussikins gets into no-nos once in a while, but he's still my perfect little Sumsy Kiddles.
Well, your son made a video backstage. Let's take a look.
Mary, I am out of control. Yeah, I use drugs. I can do what I want, bitch. Yeah, I have sex and I don't use protection. It's my hot body. I'll do what I want. I don't go to school and I kill people. Whatever. I'll do what I want.
Oh, he's such a cutie.
Well, let's bring him out. Here's Eric Cartman.
Whatever. Mari, my mom can't control me. Ask her. Go on, ask her.
Miss Cartman, what does your son like to do?
Ooh, he loves playing with his Clyde Frog and Wellington Bear.
Man, we're pretending, remember? Sex and drugs.
Oh, I mean sex and drugs.
Oh. Whatever. I'll do what I want.
Oh, whatever. You ain't tough, ho. I run with gangs.
Oh, yeah? I run with 12 gangs, and we only commit hate crimes. Whatever. I'll do what I want.
Whatever. You ain't bad. You ain't nothing. I ditch class and go shoot heroin in the school bathroom.
Whatever. I ran for Congress and won. Then I had sex with an intern, killed her, and hit her body. Whatever. I'll do what I want.
Okay, why did we? I don't even know why we watched that. Okay, let's go.
Legal status. There are plenty of people in the United States, for example, who don't have legal status right now, who don't have a social security card, for example, in the United States. Obviously, we can't kill them. They're legal immigrants. We shouldn't murder them. You know, there are lots of people in the legal status does not, in fact, equate to moral status in any sense of the term. I mean, that it's true, for example, that children can't vote and don't actually have control over any of their decision making. Right? I have 4 kids of my own, and I control their decision making because they're very small. Okay, that doesn't mean that I get to kill them. So the idea of legal status, thus being the basis of a moral status, is putting the cart before the horse. The truth is that it's because things have a moral status, that we give them a legal status, and obviously you can see that state by state, right? For example, even in the state of California, they had something called Lacey's Law for a while. I think it's still applicable, where if somebody killed a pregnant woman, that could be treated as a double homicide in criminal law.
Ooh,
okay, that sort of stuff applies all over the United States. So using the legal as a substitute to sort of evade the moral question ignores the fact that people make law in the states based on what their moral perception of the issue is. The law follows the moral perception, not the other way around.
Yes, I agree, but I think there is a problem with the moral perception, especially when you consider that morality varies all across America. It's not uniform anywhere, and that's a big problem, especially when you see in the South.
Which is why it should be on a state level. Now, let me ask you this: if you do you think that, just real quick, do you think she would say that the morality regarding slavery is? People in Arkansas might feel different about slavery than people in Maine or California. Therefore, we should just let people decide whether or not they have slaves. Because that's the argument she's making for this also.
South, when they're having like 6-week abortion bans, which is detrimental to women's health. Because as we see in Georgia right now, there were 2 women who were pregnant who went to a hospital, get health care, and they were denied that care because there was confusion surrounding abortion laws. That's why I focus more so on the legality aspect of it, because that's something that's uniform. That's something that could be known.
It isn't uniform though, right? I mean, it does vary state to state. I mean, as you yourself just acknowledged.
Like legality, she's acting like legality just, how can I put this? It's almost like gospel. Like, well, it's the law. This is the law, and that's not the law, and that's how it's always been, and that's how it's always going to be. Who decides what's legal and what's not legal? Who creates the laws? The people. The people decide on it, right?
True, yes.
So, when it comes to sort of we can get into the specifics of those particular Georgia cases. One of them particularly has been relatively badly covered. It's about a woman who took basically both doses of the abortion medication. She took it without the supervision of a doctor. She then experienced essentially sepsis, and she went to the hospital late. And then, under no interpretation, by this point, she had twins. Both of the fetuses were unfortunately dead by this point, so there actually was no legal problem with performing a DNC at that time, and the hospital misinterpreted the law. But without getting into more details about that particular case, the real question when it comes to abortion was, and always will be, how we weigh 2 separate considerations. One is the moral value of the life of the fetus, and the second is the woman's right to choose. The problem is that these are sort of mutually exclusive, meaning that I don't have a right to choose about your life, right? About whether I get to kill you or not, or about the children that I have who are already born. And so the right to choose is obviated by the acknowledgement of a moral status on the part of the child, and vice versa. Right? If you're willing to say that the child has no moral status whatever, then there really is no problem with abortion. The big moral problem I have with the sort of Kamala Harris position and the position that I have. Sorry. Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Jesus. I think I got the judges over here.
All right.
Hey, nice to meet you, man.
Plus, I'll see you again later, dude. All right. Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Nice
Hey, Cam. Hey, appreciate you being here.
Holy shit. Rough.
And having an open discussion.
Yeah, you bet it's fun.
Let's say that just hypothetically, right? Baby's born. Mm-hmm. Mama can't feed the baby. She's not breastfeeding. Baby dies. Morally, do you feel like that would be better than if
there's baby formula? You can buy baby formula? Like what the fuck type of premise is this? The fuck?
The baby would have just been like aborted before it was born?
I mean, I'm not sure that there's any. I mean, I think that it's significantly worse to purposefully kill a child rather than accidentally or through circumstances kill a child.
Not accidentally, right? She cannot.
She didn't purposefully kill the child.
She can't afford it, right?
I mean,
she can't afford to have the baby, and so you're saying that Kamala Harris is extreme, but your stance is that
there's baby formula. You can get, like, there are government subsidies for mothers that can't afford to feed their baby. Like, at a worst case, there are baby drop boxes. You can drop your baby off at any fire station across the country, and firefighters will raise your baby or whatever the fuck they do. It's like what type of ridiculous, retarded ass hypothetical is totally not grounded in reality at all.
Women are being forced to have children, even if they decide that for whatever reason, I don't care. I don't care.
Why don't
for
you
whatever
care? Why
reason,
don't you care? Because you give me a very specific example.
Because it is not between me.
Right, but
it is between that mom, her health, her relationship with whoever she believes in. It is not on me.
Here's sort of the problem. You're extrapolating from a very emotionally laden example to everything. And I'm wondering how you're doing that. So you give me a case in which you have a woman who, for whatever reason, literally cannot feed her child for some reason. Adoption's not available. There are no food stamps. There's literally nothing. She's in a desert by herself.
They're turning on him. Yeah, I was gonna say this dude, this black dude here is floundering hard when everybody else in the audience is like, hey, we gotta get rid of him, right? Sub me in. That's how you know this guy is taking the L.
Woman who, for whatever reason, literally cannot feed her child for some reason. Adoption's not available. There are no food stamps. There's literally nothing. She's in a desert by herself, and the baby's going to die. Is that abortion equivalent to a woman who decides to, because she doesn't want the baby for economic reasons or because it's going to crimp her lifestyle, whatever? You said you don't care about the reason at all. That's your words, not mine. So she's 15 weeks pregnant. She wants to kill it. That's the same? Why?
You're asking me why it's the same. I'm asking you why isn't it the same? Why is a baby who
I think it's pretty self-evidently the same, not the same.
Can't be born say that if she doesn't want to, if she says that I can't economically afford this child, that's like somebody going and saying, I can't economically afford this car, and the car salesperson still taking them on a test drive. Like, what's the point?
A car is not a living, breathing human. A baby is not an inanimate metal object made in Japan. There is a difference. This is not apples to apples here, bro.
Point if they've already told you that they are not going to be able to economically afford it unless you give them, like you said, okay, what about abortion? Well, there's how many people in foster care that aren't being adopted right now today? All right,
should we kill them or what?
I'm not saying we should kill them. I'm just saying that should we wait at least until
would have been better if they were
those
dead?
people. You tell me.
No, you tell me. You're the one who's suggesting
those
that's a matter of moral apathy, whether those kids were born or not. I don't think so.
So if kids are in foster care and not being treated well, they're being abused. They're not being fed.
That is a
horrific problem, yes.
They're
being locked. The fridge is being locked, and they're told they can't go get it because there are people who are only in it because they're getting a check. You're saying that is morally
superior to killing them? Yes.
Before they're born. So
yes.
Dude, this guy is actually like 85 IQ. All Ben has to say here is, listen, rather than advocating for abortion and killing those people, I would just say, listen, I would advocate that foster children get treated better. I would counter his point. Listen, yeah, I would just prefer that foster children, if this is happening, they're locked in the fridge, they're starving to death, whatever, they're being physically beaten. I just think foster kids should be treated better, not killed. That's the counter.
You're saying that torturing a human being who's born, like they're a real life human today.
No, I'm not the one in favor of torture. You're the one in favor of unborn people being killed.
If the only way you survive is food and water, and you rely on someone else to provide that to you, and they're not providing it to you, what would you call that?
I'm confused by.
I know you are, because your argument contradicts itself.
No, it really, really doesn't. I mean, the argument that you're making is that a born child deprived of food and water never should have been born.
No,
I don't see why that follows.
That's not my argument. My argument.
Dude, every flag was up. Every single one of the flags was up.
Thanks.
Later, retard.
Well, okay, we're gonna take this chair.
Oh, he's doing it backwards. Watch out, Fatso, he might break the chair.
Look at that.
Hey, Ben.
Like a bro, my friend. All right.
How's it going?
Let's break open
first question, can men get pregnant?
Oh boy, hold up. Okay. Hold up. Wait a minute.
Men cannot get pregnant.
Okay. Awesome. So
definitionally.
Definitionally, okay. Do men experience SA? Sexual assault?
Sure.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yep.
What about the existence of trans men?
What about the existence? Do you mean women who believe that they are men? What are we talking about here? Women experiencing gender dysphoria?
So my other question is, do you benefit from white supremacy in any way, shape?
It's a trap, dude. Dude, traps are so hot. Oh, dude. You know what's crazy is, man, I remember. Okay, I'm old enough to remember when the word trap was used. Now, I feel like traps don't exist. Like, that's not a term anymore, right? That's like an old 4chan term from like 2008. That's not a thing. Traps are not real. Traps don't exist anymore.
Paper form.
It I'm going to need more specifics on what you mean by white
Well, here, let me
supremacy.
give it to you then.
Sure, please.
So I'm a transgender man.
Okay.
I've experienced SA.
Okay.
And abortion rights affect me directly. So if we're talking about the American dream that you live, why don't I have access to that? Because there's no legislation, in the history of America, that legislates a man's body, so why does mine have to be legislated?
There's no legislation in the history of America that legislates a man's body. How about the one that mandates that I have to sign up for the draft when I turn 18, otherwise I go to prison? How about the one where I relinquish my bodily autonomy to the federal government? They can send me across, if they draft me, they can send me to wherever the fuck and get me killed. And if I don't opt into the system, then I go to jail. What about that? What about the fact that male circumcision, genital mutilation is legal? How about the fact that it's like 65% of American men are genitally mutilated upon being born in the country? Like, what the fuck is this guy? What is this person talking about? You're insane.
I've got a vagina.
Oh my God.
I'm not interested in what your genitalia are.
Clearly you are. I mean, it's all over everything you make, buddy. I'm sorry. I hate to say it to you, but
I think you can read on my face that I radically am not. I think you can.
I've got a vagina. I've got a clitoris. I've got big labia. I've got a vagina. What about that, Ben Shapiro? What about that, Ben? What about my clitoris, Ben Shapiro?
You can read on my face that I radically am not. When we're talking about abortion...
No, I don't. I mean, you can present it here, but in most of the content that you have, you attack my community constantly.
Super!
You don't even realize guys like me exist, who actually share a lot of similarities to you and everything, because I'm a married man of 20 years.
I
got a wife.
recognize that you exist. I disagree with your claim
so
that you are
if
a
I
male.
was sexually assaulted, right, and I didn't have access to that abortion care, do you believe that I should have carried that child to term because I was sexually assaulted?
I mean,
no, I just want to make sure that that's what you believe. Because as a transgender man, I have seen your side of the entire political debate, never ever having the conversation of what an American freedom is. Because why am I not allowed to live my American freedom as a man? You know, I mean, you get your choice as a man to live and free and all that.
You're really moving around.
All Ben Ben is not going to bring up circumcision here because he's Jewish. But what I would say is, listen, my brother, my male brother here, my man, are you signed up for selective service? Can you be drafted by the U.S. government? No? Okay. Were you circumcised? Like 65 or 70% of American male infants when you were born, are you circumcised? No? Okay. Curious.
Terminology very wildly here.
And so are you, because that's the tactics you play in your game. And you've done it the entire time. You've jumped from one subject to the next. You speak so fast, and I know how you work. So how does it feel to have it in your face?
Oh, well, I mean...
Because I'm sick and tired of the shit that you have put against my community, especially black trans women. Because you constantly disregard all of our needs and then use us politically as a pawn when we're 1% of the population. Why not focus on the economy itself? All of us are struggling, and you want to focus on trans people. You want to focus on a black woman when this is clearly a glass cliff situation. America's falling apart, and let's give it a woman right when it's all falling apart, when we had, 50 men run it and it looks like shit? Look at where we're at. Truly, where do you think that we're heading? I mean, it's so funny to watch white supremacy just fall apart the way that it is, and you ride so hard. Because guess what? In other countries around the world, women are not having children. And why is it? Because of the patriarchy and all the violence that men perpetuate, and all of this idea that abortion is some...
Just real quick, don't lesbian relationships have the highest rate of spousal abuse? By multiple factors. It's actually, hold up. I'm going to grok. I'm grokking. Hey, don't look at that. We're gonna play that. Don't look at that. Do not look at that. Grok. Okay. Okay. Please compare male homosexual. Can I fucking type? Nope. Spousal abuse rates to... No, I cannot type. To female lesbian spousal... Dude, hold up. Dude, I type like Aiden Ross. Spousal abuse rates to straight male, female, spousal abuse rates. Okay, is that good? Did I cover everything here? Okay, hold up. Okay, so lesbian relationship. For instance, posts on X and some studies suggest that around 43 to 44% of lesbian women experience intimate partner violence. Okay, so 44% lesbians, gays 26%, and straights. Here, the rates of infant partner violence are cited at around 35% for heterosexual women and 29% for heterosexual men. Okay, so straight men are abusing women at 6% more than women are abusing men. Yeah, and there you go, dude. What's up with the lesbians? Why are they abusing each other? Stop lesbian violence. Stop lesbian violence. We need to stop them from abusing each other. This is not good.
Somehow gonna solve it all by forcing women to have abortion instead of focusing on the real problems that we're facing in our society. We're just gonna completely ignore that, and we're just gonna go, you know what? The line item is, let's make women have babies so that we can continue this capitalistic society that we have. Why are we doing that? What? I mean, why? Because you wanna push white supremacy and because you wanna make your check?
Hold up. How is being anti-abortion white supremacist when most abortions are black people? Black people are getting the way more abortions. So if you were a white supremacist, you actually would probably be pushing abortions. You would be super in favor, and then you'd be setting up Planned Parenthood clinics in the hood, in the ghetto, and downtown Chicago and fucking Memphis. That's what you would be doing. And by the way, that actually is what happened. By the way, that's actually kind of how it started. Fun fact, we'll look into that later if you don't believe me.
It does great for you. Meanwhile, people like me have to live with the consequences of all of your rhetoric that you put on a daily basis. And including my entire community. And the intersectionalities of black women, men that experience SA, trans people, everyone that comes in. And I'm so sick of the idea that you can come in with this bravado, that you're this big guy that knows things because you can talk fast, you have statistics. But really, what does it really matter at the end of the day if you are harming the entire American? This guy's been accused of rape. Trump, in like court documents, and you're backing.
He's been accused. He's been accused. Someone accused him.
The guy. Like, you have children. How could you do that to your own? Don't you have a daughter? Like, what is wrong with you, dude? I've never seen such a party just completely the American idea, what we believe in as a country, is not what you're perpetuating. It's
the founding fathers would have stood by me, a trans man defending abortion access. How dare you, Ben Shapiro?
Diversity. It's giving you entire hungry and poor. The Google phone you have in your pocket is because of all of the diversity we've had.
Pause.
Pleasure to meet you.
You dick. Psych.
Okay. There's a lot of tension in the room now. Let's stay cordial. Let's stay respectful, please. Please.
Wow. Fat. You're fat. Here we go.
Hi, how are you?
Hey.
Nice to meet you. So let's say that I'm voted out by my friends here, and I stand up and immediately collapse onto the ground. Paramedics rush in, and through some magical means, they determine that the only person who can save my life is you. You can do that by giving me a transplant. Mm-hmm. Can you be forced to give me a transplant? I cannot. Why? Because I do not have a parental relationship with you, and thus I do not owe you a duty of care in the same way that I would if, say, you were my son. Can a parent be forced to give a kid a transplant? Yes, a parent can be forced to give a kid an enormous number of resources, or should be. Can you be forced to give me blood? No. Do you believe that the average person should be able to be forced by the government to do something with their body? It depends what, because that is the nature of law. Why can you not be forced to give me an organ? Because I do not owe you a duty of care sufficient to remove an organ from me. Because you cannot be forced to use your body to sustain my own, and that is the crux of the abortion. Because I do not owe you a duty to care. You cannot be forced to use your body to sustain my own, and that is the crux of the abortion argument.
The government forcing Ben Shapiro to give this guy a kidney is the same as a woman not being able to abort her baby? Holy shit, what an argument. Damn.
And the problem is, and it's very morally
You're ignoring the
inconsistent.
parental relationship.
Because there's a point here. There's a very morally inconsistent part to your argument right here. If you do not believe that you should be forced to sustain my body using your own, then you should also not believe that a woman should be forced to sustain a child that they do not want to carry in utero. Is the same basic argument.
Well,
it doesn't matter how you get there. Let's say that you crash into me on the way out of here.
Well, no, it's
if you hit
it's
into
not
me,
it's actually
yes,
not
it
the
is.
same
But it is. If you say
It
that,
isn't,
let's
though.
say that you run into me
Okay.
on the way out of here. If you crash into me, it doesn't matter that that is the reason why I am in that.
I'm going to be honest, man. I feel like in 99.999% of cases, people that use analogies rather than just talking about the topic at hand are either intentionally trying to be manipulative and obfuscate from the conversation, or they are just retarded themselves. Analogies are almost never beneficial in a conversation.
You cannot be forced to give me blood. You cannot be forced to give me an organ. You
Okay,
cannot
that's
be
not
forced to
actually
use your
how
body to
abortion
sustain my
works.
own.
An abortion includes a pre-existing physical connection between the two bodies. So a better example would be the so-called dead violinist example or dying violinist example that was put forward by a philosopher. I can't remember her name. The basic idea there is that you wake up in a room and I'm connected to you, right? And you have some sort of health condition. I'm connected to you and I'm giving you a blood transfusion. And if I remove that, you'll die. Do I have a duty not to remove it? I think there's actually a fairly decent case that I actually do have a duty.
No, you do
to
not.
remove it.
You do not have
Well,
a duty to be
you can't-
forced to. No,
why are you
because
defining my
do-
moral position?
You do not have a duty to
My moral
sustain
position is
someone
not
else's
yours,
body
clearly.
using your own.
Get him out of here. Based waifu. Thank you very much. Thank you. Can we give a shout out to all the real gamers? None of the fake gamers. Fuck the fake gamers. Let's give a shout out to the real gamers. Thank you guys. We are sitting here. Dude, hold up. Can I show this? Am I allowed to show this? Yeah, I think probably nothing bad happens. We are just sitting here farming followed. We're Thank you. Hold up. You know what I'm realizing now though? 372 subscribers, and this thing says I only have 268. So my sub tracker is broken. Can I fix that? Can I do that? I don't think I can. Hold up. Refresh. Cache. Oh. No, still broken. Okay, well, I guess I need to fix that. I don't know what the fuck the problem is. But anyway, listen, the point is, thank you guys very, very much. My goal for the day, I was thinking, if I can hit 1,000 viewers for the day, I'm going to be happy. If I can bring over 1,000 of you guys, I will be happy. I will be satisfied. 1,200. Ugh. 1,200 of my most elite. 1,243 of my most elite. So thank you guys very much. I'm gonna get a little bit gay here for a second with you guys, if you guys will allow me to get a little bit gay. You know, like, I've been a streamer for 7.5 years. I've built my life around this. It's a big portion of my life. I've got a wife. I've got kids. It's sort of an uneasy feeling to know that some mentally ill, purple-haired, you know, Twitch staff, moderator, whatever, trust and safety team member can just rug pull my entire career, right? For no reason. Because you guys know, I wasn't even given a reason why I've been banned or anything. I have no fucking idea. So, you know, you guys coming over here, and we're on Kick now, and supporting and subscribing and following and tuning in and everything. I really, this is the gay part. I really do appreciate it. I really, really do appreciate it. I know my wife is tuning in. She appreciates it. My wife appreciates it and shit. My wife really does be appreciating and shit. So thank you guys. Lumi Dorf. Lumi, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I appreciate all of it, guys. Thank you very much. Apologize to Maximos and Sue Twitch. Yeah, that's what I need to do. I need to team up. I need to team up with the Zionists to help take down Twitch. That's what I need to do. I'm going to team up with them and we're going to destroy them. I am declaring not a jihad. No, that's the opposite. I'm declaring, what is it called when the Zionists do it? I'm declaring a Jewish holy war. I am declaring a Jewish holy war, a kosher war. I don't know. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. A Nakba. I'm declaring. No, I'm not. There's no Nakba. By the way, Oren TV, thank you very much. And Lumi, thank you guys. Thank you guys a lot. Thank you guys a lot. Thank you guys a lot. Everybody, 07. 07. You know what? Now's probably a good time to go take a piss break. So nobody go anywhere. I will be back in 90 seconds. Let me find a nice song for you guys. This is a nice. Hold up. Where's my chat? There it is. Okay, don't go anywhere. Piss break, and then we're back.
How do you do? You like me and I like you. Come and take me by the hand, 'cause I wanna be your friend. How do you do? You like me and I like you. Say how do you do? You do? How do you do? You do? When I'm going on a summer holiday and my plane is to a place so far away, I'm so happy 'cause it's time to celebrate. Oh, I feel like I could dance. Whoa, different people all around the globe don't know what to say when there's a stranger. I will show that there is a way you can communicate. Everybody understands. How do you do? You like me and I like you. Come and take me by the hand, 'cause I wanna be your friend. How do you do? You like me and I like you. Say how do you do? You do? How do you do? You do? How do you do? You like me and I like you. Come and take me by the hand, 'cause I wanna be your friend. How do you do? You like me and I like you. Say how do you do? You do? How do you do? You do? It's so easy when you want to make a friend. When the sun is shining in a
Dude.
distant land.
You know what occurred to me? Now that we are on Kick, I can listen to certified Aryan classics, and I don't even have. It's fine. And by the way, okay, enjoying certified Aryan classics does not make you a Nazi. By the way, it's good. It's just good music. It's good music. It's all good. Look, check this out. Watch. Let's go. It's another Aryan classic. Can't be denied. Also, real quick, we need to give a shout out. Real quick, we need to give a shout out to the daily sponsor. I want to give a shout out to the great CCP sponsored streaming website DouYu. Shout out for putting me on. We love the CCP. We love China. We love DouYu. Long live the Chinese Communist Party. The East is rising up. They're taking over. Let's fucking go. Social credit for everybody tuning in. Let's fucking go. Let's go. Let's go. China W. China W. China W. Ooh, let's go, bitch. Let's go. Ni hao ma, shay shay. Okay, let's get back to it. That's enough. That's enough. Let's go. Ben Shapiro. What about Ben Shapiro, though? What about that?
It's been tough to get in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm 5'2".
You made it.
I'm the only one in the room shorter than you. Okay, so honestly, my understanding of Kamala's plan is a return to Roe v. Wade, but in the legislative level. That seems to be the majority opinion by the American people. They were not for the removal, right? Trump is not really for an abortion ban, right?
I mean, he himself has said he is not.
Okay, yeah, but unfortunately, the way he governs, he puts those three folks in the Supreme Court. If they do it, his vice presidential pick really wants to do it. He's claiming now that everybody wants it to the states. Nobody wanted it. No, that was not the demand. I think people are just kind of interested in protecting their freedoms. It's a bigger discussion about freedom. And I think Kamala Harris is going to be the presidential pick to protect the freedom.
Hold on. Okay, I was tuned out for a second. I'm sorry. I think this guy just said something super retarded, but I missed it because about 3 hours ago, liberal hive mind, you know, a good friend of the community, the liberal hive mind, gave us a shout. He said, listen, a shout out. A friend of mine recently got banned on Twitch for being too based. You should check him out. So first off, shout out, God bless. You know, if you guys could do me a favor, if you guys could help me juice up that tweet right there, let's send a message. Let's let him know. We appreciate the shout out. I'm sorry for the interruptions, but we got to do it. Let's let him know. In fact, juice up that tweet, this guy's tweet, this tweet, every tweet, juice it up. And we'll continue on. But anyway, thank you guys. Thank you guys. That was very kind. That was very nice of him. Drop him a follow too on Twitter, Liberal Hive Mind. He has a good YouTube channel. Dude, Ritz is based. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So, did this guy just say that Americans don't really care about immigration? They just care about quality of life. Is that what he's talking about? Let me rewind here. I'm sorry.
It's been tough to get in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm 5'2".
You made it.
I'm the only one in the room shorter than you.
Rewind a little bit.
Okay. So honestly, my understanding of Kamala's plan is a return to Roe v. Wade, but in the legislative level. That seems to be the majority opinion by the American people. They were not for the removal, right? Trump is not really for an abortion ban, right?
I mean,
In
he
his
himself has said
personal
he is
level.
not.
He's not.
Okay, yeah, but unfortunately, the way he governs, he puts those three folks in the Supreme Court. They do it. His vice presidential pick really wants to do it. He's claiming now that everybody wants it to the states. Nobody wanted it. No, that was not the demand. I think people are just kind of interested in protecting their freedoms. It's a bigger discussion about freedom. And I think Kamala Harris is going to be the presidential pick to protect the freedoms.
Okay, so again, I think that we have to define what we think Kamala Harris's position is. I think that it goes well beyond simply restoring Roe versus Wade, for example, which is an extremely flawed legal decision, a wide variety of legal scholars ranging from right to left. Ruth Bader Ginsburg used to point out that was a very flawed legal
we can't
decision.
pretend that this is like a bipartisan thing. Roe v. Wade was a problem. The bipartisan thing.
No,
was
you might like
having
the
Roe v. Wade.
you might like the results. You might like the results of Roe versus
I
Wade.
don't
The
have
actual
much
legal decision is a bad legal decision.
I think that.
That's the end of this claim.
I'm glad you finally made it, though.
Goodbye.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, before we go any further, we want to take a moment to say thanks so much to Straight Arrow News for powering the fact checks in this video. Straight Arrow News is an app and website that is on.
I love fact checking. There's nothing I love more than... Actually, there actually is one thing I love more than fact checking. What I love is spreading misinformation on the internet, dude. That's one of my favorite things to do. I love spreading misinformation on the internet. It's awesome. It's awesome.
It is. Kamala Harris's border policies will turn America into an unsafe and bankrupt nation.
Border policies. Okay.
I will let some of my colleagues here in the circle really talk about why they appreciate Kamala Harris's right shift when it comes to border policy, trying to deter the amount of people that are coming through the southern border. That's not something I'm particularly passionate about. So I'm more inclined to talk about specifically why you, somebody who purports himself as someone who's uber capitalist, want to remove the labor pool from this country, which always increases to business and economic growth.
Right. So I'm not interested in removing the labor pool from the country as a general rule. However, I don't believe that it's an economic benefit to the United States to bring in a low-skill, low-education labor pool that is drawing significantly from public benefits, for example. And there are very good data to show that there's huge reliance on, say, emergency rooms, educational facilities. Based on the Center for Immigration Studies, there's a net cost to low-wage, low-skill immigration coming into the country.
You're in favor with emergency rooms just deterring people based on what they look like or what might be perceived as someone with a lack of citizenship?
No.
If you're not a citizen, the emergency room is turning you away. If that bothers you, do not come here illegally. Do not be in the country illegally if you're not comfortable with the fact or with the idea of a hospital or emergency room turning you away. Just don't be here. I'm going to say it. Someone has to say it.
I'm very much in favor of limiting the amount of illegal immigration to zero and then allowing a fair bit of legal immigration.
So you're more interested in decreasing the pool of people and population in this country so there are less emergency room visits? Or are you more in favor of actually documenting these people so we're able to track exactly who?
Shut them down. They're not coming here illegally, and we're going to make it easier economically and also through government programs to make it easier for American families to have kids. We want to make it easier so that we don't need to import a low skill, effectively neo-feudal modern slave labor class. We're going to make it easier for Americans to have kids. We're going to shut down the border. We're going to incentivize Americans to have kids, and we're going to create and grow our own labor force, just like we used to back in the day.
Who is coming through?
Like, I'm kind of.
We're going to
it's not about number. It's about the people who are coming in. I believe that everybody who comes into this country should come in through a legal mechanism, and that the United States ought to be able to select the people who are coming in, who are the best, brightest, and most useful to the American population, because that is the prerogative of any nation.
So do you think that the way that we do allow people in through our legalization process, especially with how much egregious obstacles people have to go through, might incentivize people to come through non-legal means?
I mean,
on average, it takes about 10 years for somebody to...
Dude, what? Do you think the fact that you have to pay for things at a grocery store incentivizes some people to steal things from the grocery store? Did you consider that, Ben Shapiro? Did you think about that?
Gain citizenship in this country. And if somebody is fleeing political persecution, I really find it interesting how conservatives always like to talk about the response to certain behaviors instead of what the root cause is. When oftentimes United States foreign policy is what creates the destabilization of countries, which is why people try to come to places where they can't get economic benefit. I mean, your employee, Matt Walsh, was kind of schooled on this with Ryan Grimm, where he talked about specifically Haitian policy, where the government of Haiti has been destabilized over and over again by Western imperial nations, so that those citizens are trying to...
The reason Haiti sucks is because of us. Why did we do it? Why did we do it? Why did we do it? Why did we oppress Haiti and turn it into a shithole? Why did we do that? I can't believe that we did that.
Something with political...
I mean, is it your contention that anytime there's a destabilized nation across the world, even if the United States had a hand in it, then we then have a moral obligation to take in every citizen of that country who wishes to flee?
No, I think that's a huge straw man. I'm not saying that every single person from a destabilized country needs to take refuge in the United States, but I think it's important to add that context so you can understand why people are coming here.
That's a case for a different foreign policy. That's not a case for an immigration policy.
The idea is people are coming in here to mooch off of our emergency rooms or mooch off of our social services,
No, I don't think
which
that's
is just
true.
not true at all.
I mean, no,
that's your big contention.
It's not that they're coming here to mooch off of our hospitals. They're coming here for economic opportunity, and people have accidents if they're here illegally and they're working a job and they sprain their ankle or they cut themselves accident. Like, people have accidents. This is the real world. Then they go to the hospital and they're not here legally, and then it's a problem, right? It's not that they're coming here specifically to go to the hospital illegally.
That's not my contention.
Okay,
My contention
I'll let
is,
you speak.
I'm not claiming that the intent of
Blake
people
and
is
Yodu.
to mooch off the system.
Oh, man.
The result of people is that they may be a net draw on benefits rather than a net contributor to the economy of the United States or to the culture of the United States, because I want people who are coming here who actually have some sort of belief in, say, American-style freedoms. I don't think everybody from all over the world has the same ideology.
So
as
you're aligning with Nick Fuentes that like a lot of these people just don't have the exact same culture.
These
people don't have culture and they can't come here. I know that you're making that face. I know that he's an individual that you guys obviously disagree. He's somebody that's like increases calls for violence against people of certain communities.
I have no idea what Nick Fuentes' stance on immigration is. I will say this. If you want to come to the country, in fact, this is how it was prior to 1965. This is how it was for the entirety of American history prior to 1965. You did have to pass what was effectively an American civic test. You had to pass a cultural test, a history test. If you want not to become a citizen, if you wanted to be here at all, if you wanted to immigrate here and then become a citizen later on, maybe 5 years down the road, you had to go through a series of tests to make sure that you were going to be a compatible person in the country. That's how it was. It was awesome. We should bring that back. It was great.
I'm not saying that you're
Nick
identical,
Fuentes,
but I'm saying on this issue particular,
he literally makes videos trying to stab me. So
see this disdain in your face, though?
Stab
Like,
him?
this is the type of disdain I have for the exact ideology that you guys are in agreement.
I don't understand why there is anything wrong with the idea that you ought to screen people
can
for their
assimilate?
viewpoint. Of course, people can assimilate, but you ought to select from a pool of people who are most likely to assimilate. That doesn't mean that everybody has it. Do you think everybody on Earth has an equivalent ideology? Try and get into the country? We shouldn't screen for ideology at all.
How would you screen for ideology? Like a basic test to show what people actually value when it comes to attributes?
Sure.
What would that test look like?
I mean, I think that would look very much like a citizen.
It's inconceivable that you could come up with a test to screen for people's cultural beliefs. It's just that, what would that even look like? It's inconceivable. Like, is this guy fucking retarded? Like, what are you talking about?
Citizenship test.
But this is
like, do you think, here, test, okay? Do you think you should be able to take a shit in public? Yes or no? Do you think you should be able to beat your 2-year-old child if they mess up or make a mistake? Do you think you should be able to beat your dog? Do you think, do you think you should be able to take things from people that don't belong to you. These are like very basic. But by the way, people feel differently about these issues. People feel differently about these issues. They do. Do you think that women should be able to drive cars? Do you think that it's like you don't have to be a genius to come up with questions for a test like this? Right?
This is not determining the ideologies of this person coming in. This is a determination.
I mean, they
of
at
what
least have to
facts or
understand
history
the
that
basic.
people can actually ask.
No, but people would actually have to understand the basic
How
ideology.
many
of the United
U.S.-born
States.
citizens do you think could pass a citizenship test?
They don't have to because they're citizens, bitch. Guess what? They don't have to because they are natural-born U.S. citizens. This test is for people that are not citizens and want to come into the country. You better pass the test, bitch. Oh.
Good to meet you.
Kamala Harris supports the bipartisan border bill that was negotiated by conservative Senator James Langford and supported by Mitch McConnell. Do you?
Dude, I feel like if I have to hear more about this border bill, I'm gonna rip my fucking eyeballs out. This is, oh my god, I'm just so bored of hearing about this. It's so fucking boring. Oh my god.
Do not support that bill? And
I do not support that bill.
So what is your solution then?
I mean, my solution is that this actually ought not be done in a comprehensive fashion. So I have a general critique of the way that we deal with immigration in the country. Instead of trying to solve all problems at once, which is very likely to end in nothing, what we ought to first do is we ought to close the border. And
But
then
the border is closed right now. Do you agree?
The border is certainly not closed right
What do
now.
you mean? There's a small trickle of people coming over. The numbers are similar to the end of the Trump administration, no?
Well, now because of
No.
executive order, they've been reduced
No.
significantly, but
There's a small trickle of people. It's only 5,000 per day. It's only 1.8 million per year. What's the big problem? What's the issue? It's just a small trickle of people.
Do you not agree that they're the same number as the end of the Trump administration?
Right now, it is on a monthly basis, but that's after letting in 6.5 million illegal immigrants.
So do you think Trump was failing then at the end of his administration?
I think that Donald Trump did a better job than Joe Biden. He certainly did not do a perfect job on illegal immigration.
So Joe Biden is matching what Donald Trump is doing right now. So you applaud Joe Biden?
After letting in 6.5.
He's comparing Joe Biden's best to Donald Trump's worst. That's his argument.
1.5 to 11 million illegal immigrants.
Well,
I don't think
those
you
are
get to
border-
fill in that gap
those are
by
border-
doing it like 4 months of good border policy.
Those are border encounters. We don't know how many of those people were turned away. We don't know how many of those people are still in this country. But those people make up a significant portion of our labor force as well, including in states like yours, Florida, where they make up like 5%.
So your argument is that it's
But the labor force, if we don't have illegal immigrants coming in the country working for $2.50 per hour, what about the labor force? What about the GDP? What about this? Oh my God.
not happening, and it's good that it is.
It's not happening? What do you mean?
That the illegal immigration pool is not very large, and also it's
True.
good that it is large.
I'm saying
True. Ben caught him here because Ben does the exact same thing. He said, so what you're saying is that the problem isn't actually real, but if it is real, here's why it's a good thing.
you guys make up numbers all the time. It's like
That
20,
argument is not from
30
me.
million.
That's from the Wall Street Journal. I'm not making up that number.
Well, Donald Trump said he wants to deport 20 million of these guys. What do you think of that?
I mean, I think that if we were going to look at deportations, we obviously ought to tranche that out based on criminal record. We ought to tranche it out based on usefulness to the economy. I think we ought to look at each person individually and determine whether they ought to be deported or not.
So that is probably going to lead to a small trickle of people being kicked out of here. So that's not going to accomplish your goal.
Well, I mean, who said that my goal was to mass deport 20 million people all
So
at
you
once?
want 20 million undocumented immigrants to stay in America?
No,
Is that what you're saying?
no, that is not what I'm saying. I fail to see how you got from, I would like to go through one by one in the same way that we do IRS tax forms for literally every American who pays taxes in the United States and go through illegal immigrants and determine who ought to stay in the country and who not ought to stay in the country.
So what army is going to go over these 20 million people, and with what resources? Where are you going to detain them? How are you going to get them out of the country?
I mean,
we are going to need a team. We are going to need an elite team. You're right. It's a good question. We're going to need squads. We're going to need a team. We're going to need squads to go around the country. We're going to need some top guys. It's going to happen.
You'll detain them and you'll deport them, increasing the resources of ICE.
Yep.
The biggest problem
with regard to similar to the bill that was rejected by you and...
Well, I mean, you're neglecting the part of the bill that allowed a baseline of 5,000 illegal immigrants border encounters before the executive branch automatically kicked in border enforcement.
So
I've been down
don't
to the
you
border,
agree we
okay?
have to
I went down to the border, and let me tell you what I saw at the border, and then we can go. Okay, so
saw with your own eyes.
Not just saw with my own eyes. Talked to the border patrol agents. Okay, the way that the Biden administration was treating the border for the vast majority of their term was to treat a claim of asylum without evidence as evidence that the person ought to be given asylum. So the first priority was for Border Patrol to be activated to go to places where Mexican drug cartels were leaving people at the border en masse, and then to process those people and let them into the country within 72 hours. The goal of this for the Mexican drug cartels was to clear large swaths of the border of Border Patrol agents specifically, so that in those unoccupied areas, fentanyl and drugs could then be passed, human trafficking could then be passed in those unoccupied areas.
So you mentioned these cartels. You agree these cartels are profiting off human trafficking, right?
Of course.
So why don't we open up legal means for these people to come in here? Then they don't have to give the cartels money. They're making...
If the cartels are illegally human trafficking people in the country, why don't we just make it legal for them to traffic people in the country? Hello, problem solved.
More money off human trafficking right now because of our immigration system. It doesn't allow...
They make money selling child sex slaves. The minority of their money is the $2,000 coyote fees. Most of the money is from selling the people. It's like there's a What is going on here?
More people, and the Republicans do not have a bill to allow more people to come here legally.
I mean, so your answer to illegal immigration is just magically legalize everyone.
No, it's to open up legal paths so these people don't have to leave their livelihood in these countries and carry a bag and walk through the jungle with their kids.
By the logic that you're using, we could make murder absolutely not a thing by simply pretending that murder is now legal.
What?
Your suggestion is that millions of illegal immigrants ought to just become legal immigrants, and then magically this would solve the entire problem.
We have failed these people. We have benefited tremendously off exploiting these people.
We've failed these people. We have no obligation to help these people. If you're a poor Venezuelan person, I'm sorry, that sucks. Thoughts and prayers, God bless. We have no obligation to help you. Okay? In fact, we have an obligation to help Americans, and we are failing at that obligation.
Well, you and we have benefited from these people working hard. They just want to be here and be a part of our country. I can't think of anything more American than that.
I'm not doubting.
Dude, man, I'm seething. I am seething right
The willingness
now.
of people to come to the country. I am doubting the incentive structure that draws people to the country with rich array of social benefits that didn't exist.
What is that incentive structure?
That incentive structure is things like Medicaid, things like free schooling.
You think someone's going to leave their home in Venezuela to come here and leech off our Medicaid? These people want to work. These people want to live, man.
Okay, then if they sign a contract saying they don't receive social benefits, they're more than welcome to stay.
Oh. Well, sadly, they would take benefits if they were available to them if they could come out of the shadows, and they would actually pay more taxes and contribute more to society. Let me ask you, if there's
passionate hands, no worries.
If there's an accident, and let's say your wife's in an accident, a car accident, the only person that witnessed it is an undocumented immigrant, they're not coming forward to be a witness, Ben. Doesn't that trouble you?
This is the reason that I show.
This is why we shouldn't have illegal immigrants in the country. You're right. Good point. This is why they shouldn't be here. True.
Allow millions and millions of illegal immigrants into the country is on the off chance that they might be a witness.
It's one reason that these people are being treated as second-class citizens, even though they benefit you and I.
Can I ask a question? What is your standard for whether someone should be allowed into the country?
My standard?
Yes.
What do you mean my standard? Like as far as their education or their ability?
Yes. You're creating immigration policy. Who should be allowed into the country?
I think we should allow a wide variety of people. This country,
everyone.
Not everybody starts out as a doctor, Ben. Some people start out doing menial tasks.
So everyone. So you have no limits. How about numbers? Do you have any number limit? No numerical limit.
20,000 people die or retire in this country a day. There's only 10,000 births. We need more people.
I agree. That's why we should all have more babies.
So, okay, well, guess what? People aren't going to have them because you're not incentivizing it. Kamala Harris is.
People aren't going to have them because economic conditions make it impossible to have a traditional American family. Housing costs are too high. Job opportunities are scarce. Are there issues that exacerbate these problems? Yeah, it's illegal immigrants. Illegal immigrants are not the only problem, but an influx of illegal immigrants coming in the country, they have to live, okay. They're soaking up social services, one. They have to live somewhere. They're living in apartments or houses. They're taking up space. Two, they're taking jobs from other maybe low income or low wage or low skill Americans. Three, these are things that make it harder for Americans to have families and houses and homes if you have millions and millions of illegal immigrants come in the country every year. It makes it harder for people already in the country. They're taking black jobs. These illegal immigrants are taking black jobs. That's what's happening, and it's actually racist, probably.
With her things like $6,000 child tax credit.
Giving
Meanwhile,
people-
you guys are just trying to cause more problems and make it harder for people to raise families.
Okay, as a person with 4 children, I can promise you I have a very, very strong incentive structure in allowing people to have more kids and incentivizing people to have more kids. I wish that government benefits were more effective in doing this. They simply have not been in particular areas of Europe. There's a different argument than the illegal immigration argument. When we're talking about illegal immigration, you seem to be making an argument there ought to be no baseline standard for who gets in and no baseline cap for how many people get in.
I'm not saying that.
So
We can come
you-
up with a figure. We
Stonewall.
can come up with
Thank
numbers.
you. So now-
I'm not a
thank you, man.
lawmaker. That's what we elect people to go do
I
and
need
work
so-
out those
okay,
figures.
I
But
need something-
Republicans are just fighting everything.
I need some standard.
You need me to come up with a number.
No, okay, a number or a characteristic or some sort of standard for who you would let into the country. Because right now, all I'm hearing is you just want lots of people to come into the country without any standard and any cap on the number.
No, not at all. I want people to come here.
True hungry pays people to have kids. The U.S., like, and it depends on how you explain this, I guess, or how you look at it. The U.S. kind of also pays people to have kids right now in a way. So give me a 1 in the chat if you're a parent. It's not a whole lot, but it is a little bit. So if you're a parent, you probably know that every year when you do your taxes, you get a $2,000 tax rebate, refund, whatever. Pretty much, you have to pay $2,000 less every year on your taxes for every kid you have. So if you have 3 kids, $6,000 less. 2 kids, $4,000 less. During COVID, there was a 2-year-long or 1-year-long program. It bumped it up to $3,500 or $3,600 per kids. But normally it's $2,000. It's been $2,000. Also, by the way, who was that? 40. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I am going to be honest. This is a policy from Kamala Harris that I actually agree with. I think that tax credit should be higher. Right now it's $2,000. I think it should be $3,000 or $4,000. I think it should be there's one example of something with Kamala Harris I agree with. It should be $3,000 or $4,000 or something. I think so. This guy's pink eye. Yeah, this guy's eye is fucking bulging. You're fucking right about that. Okay, hold up. Nomi, what is this real fast? Oh my God. He posted this today. I like Devin Nash a lot. I'm actually following him. And I regularly watch his videos on YouTube. So how about this? We will read this. Twitch is in an advertising nightmare situation. We will read this after the Ben Shapiro thing. That's like an hour from now, but we will read that today. Thank you, Nomi. Thank you very much. No, Devin Nash is a smart guy. He knows a lot about like industry back end stuff. I think I think Devin used to manage an esports team with various streamers and esports gamer athletes, and then now he operates a streamer, YouTuber, talent agency where he's hooking people up with sponsorships. And so he knows all about rates and deals and advertising and whatever. Okay, so he knows what he's talking about. So we will read through that a little bit later. DJ Glebes, thank you. Listen, I have to say every single one of these new subscriptions over here on Kick, it makes me a little bit gay. And by gay, I mean I appreciate it. I value that. I really appreciate that. So thank you. I'm feeling gay for you, bro. I'm feeling real gay right now. You're making me. In fact, I'm so gay, I'm tearing up. Thank you very much. Let's go. It does kind of feel like, you know, like it's not like Twitch is going out of business or anything. It's not like Twitch is fucking imploding, but Twitch is like having a hard time right now. There's a lot of other things going on. Twitch, like this might kind of be the beginning of Twitch losing its firm grasp on the streaming scene. Twitch might, like a year or two from now, Twitch might be just another platform. Not that it's going to go out of business, but it might be just another one of the streaming platforms, right? Who knows? Who knows? I did see the thing from the Rumble CEO. The Rumble CEO made a bet on Twitter 2 days ago. He said, I think Twitch is going to go out of business or be purchased by another entity within the next 2 years. That's the CEO of Rumble. Now, who knows if he's correct or not? Who knows? But we're going to read through the Devin Nash thing soon. I was actually considering it would have to be Monday when I get back because I'm out of town this weekend. I was thinking about making a video talking about some of the difficulties that Twitch is facing and you know how it's like kind of faltering a little bit. So maybe this will be part of that video a little bit. But anyway, Benjamin Shapiro.
Here who want to work, who want to be a part of this country, and we all benefit from that.
Okay,
do you think you're not benefiting from these undocumented people? Who do you think is going to build the houses that we need with our shortage?
So do you think the people who come into the country...
If we didn't have millions of illegal immigrants coming in the country building houses for below minimum wage rates, then Americans would fill those jobs and the pay would go up and the profit margins for the lenders that are lending to the home builder companies would go down. Marginally, housing prices would go up maybe, but that would probably be offset by the fact that you don't have millions of illegal immigrants coming in the country taking up housing space also. So you can say, oh, well, housing prices would go up on new construction because you have to pay the workers more. I think the majority of that would be soaked in the profit margins of the lenders, but also on top of that, like I said, you've got fewer people taking up housing space as a consequence of not having millions of illegal immigrants in the country now. Hey, we got to do it. We got to do it. We got to do it.
Country should be eligible for all social benefits.
If they're contributing and they're allowed to contribute fully, right now they're not. They're using other people's social security numbers.
He's pro-slave labor. Well, real quick, the argument this guy's making is the argument that Southern plantation slave owners made in 1982. Well, I'll tell you what. Who's going to pick all this cotton? We're not going to have good white American folk pick this cotton. It's just untenable, I do declare. We need to have our slaves pick it. It's like, hold up, bro. Hold up. This is not a good system, okay? Slavery is not good. And so what this guy's saying is like, yeah, we need to have what is effectively a modern slave labor class working for $3.50 an hour building homes. Otherwise, the country's going to fall apart. This is not a good system. It's not a good dynamic.
First, they pay Social Security tax and Medicare, and they're not able to get those benefits in the long run.
So, again, I'm wondering how you're balancing the cost-benefit to the American body politic if what you're suggesting is that day one you arrive in the country and now you're eligible for all social benefits.
I'm not saying day one
with no education, low-wage labor.
Well, we can work all these details out. You're fighting over the
that's the core of the argument.
Really, you're upset that somebody who comes to this country and works hard and makes your life better and cheaper is going to get Social Security 40 years from now?
No, not Social Security 40 years from now. Medicaid today.
So wouldn't you rather than get Medicaid and get preventative care than go to the hospital where it costs you,
I would prefer
the taxpayer, 10 times more money?
My point, as it has been from the beginning, is that you need screening procedures for immigration.
So you're saying...
So let's try to work this out. Why was the American dream, the American lifestyle... Single income household, the wife stays at home, you have your trad wife, you have 3 kids, you have your white picket fence, American suburban house. Why was that more affordable prior to 1965? This is when we did not have millions of illegal immigrants coming in the country. Or just like immigrants in general. After 1965, the floodgates of immigration opened up and we're taking millions and millions and millions of people, some legally, some illegally. So why reconcile this? When we had fewer immigrants and immigration was super, super regulated and monitored, and we had a quota immigration system only from certain countries, and we had made sure that people were of similar culture and similar values before they came in the country, why was the American dream more affordable or more reasonable for people? And now that we have all of these super important illegal immigrants that purportedly, I guess, keep the country afloat, why does everything suck? Everything sucks now. It doesn't really just like look at the economic. It doesn't really seem to be the case.
Border Patrol is failing then to screen these people properly? Is that the accusation you're making?
I'm making the case that Border Patrol certainly is failing.
How do you know that? Because you talked to a couple Border Patrol agents? You know, that is so insulting to our Border Patrol who's fighting every day on the front lines. You think they're not screening these people and they're being bamboozled by some people claiming asylum and tricking them?
No, because literally today the FBI announced that an Afghan national was let in without vetting and tried to plan a terrorist attack on election day. Oh,
that's just one guy. That's just one. Dude, this guy is just...
It's just one. So
one guy. You know how many terrorists were caught by the border under Trump?
There are over
0.
There are over 3.
At least we're catching them.
There are over 3. First of all, It's not true because a huge number of people, we don't know who they are coming across the border between ports of entry. Second of all, you're talking in this country right now at least 300,000 minors. We have no idea where they are.
Oh, that is nonsense. That is not nonsense. No, it is. It is ICE has lost track of them because it's...
Hey, Kathy, sweetie, if there's any food in the house, I'm starving, and also I would eat it. If there happens to be any food in this house, I would eat it. Thank you. I love you so much. Thank you.
Voluntary for them to keep in touch with the system. They are not lost. They're released to their sponsors who have to go through background checks. You have no idea what you're talking about.
They don't.
You think 300,000 minors are lost in America? Are you crazy?
I'm saying that...
Yeah, totally. Is it possible that 300,000, he said, minors are lost in America? I don't think that's unbelievable. I think that totally could be the case. Totally, that could be the case. Yeah.
I'm not saying that. The Department of Justice is saying that.
Next thing you're going to tell me there's 19,000 murderers, right? Is that the next talking point?
No, that is not the next talking point.
Okay.
But you're going to have to explain to me why it is okay for literally tens of thousands of minors to be checked out to majors, to people who are above majority age, and then for the government to not, when I say lose track, I don't mean minors
checked
walking
out
the
to their
streets by themselves.
sponsor who goes through a background check. Is that what you mean?
They do not go through.
How do you know that?
Because they're not checking in.
How do you know
number of people.
Oh, it's voluntary. Why does our law allow for it to be voluntary then if it's not working?
The law should not allow for it to be voluntary.
Oh.
And in fact, in some cases, it is not voluntary.
So,
and in fact, human trafficking is going on at scale.
It sounds like you're upset when the problem doesn't exist. What is this problem?
Why are you okay with minors who are being checked out to people of majority age who then don't check in with the government? Is that okay with you?
I'm okay with minors being checked out to their sponsors who go through background checks who are usually family members, people that know them. You think it's just some random... You think I can go pick up a undocumented immigrant child right now?
No, but I do know that has happened to tens of thousands of kids in this country.
Really? So you think they're just being released to random people?
They're being...
So I genuinely think that if you're that type of person and you are finding yourself in these like online pedophile communities, I think, that you can do that with a reasonable amount of ease. And the reason why I think that is because every couple of years you hear some big expose. AliExpress is selling cabinets for $15,000 and there's like coded words and language that's being used, or like on eBay they're selling a camping tent for $23,000 and it like talks about all these weird pedophile code words. You see this every couple of years pop up. Or Wayfair I think is where it was. Yeah, man, like I think that this problem of human trafficking, and especially pedophilic or child human trafficking, I think this problem is way worse than any decent, normal, reasonable person would ever suspect, right? I think we're all normal people. It's like, oh, well, probably everybody's normal like us and they're not doing this. I think there are a lot of very evil, terrible people in this world, and I think this is probably more common than any of us would like to acknowledge.
At least to people who claim that they are relatives, and in many cases they are not necessarily relatives.
How do you know that?
Because they are not checking in for their follow-up appointments.
Oh, because they're not checking in for the voluntary follow-up appointments. So you're assuming the worst. You're assuming they're probably being kidnapped and trafficked.
I'm happy for you that you're assuming the best as to what happens with minor children.
I'm always going to assume the best about my fellow Americans. And of course, if these people are their sponsors and their background checks by these agencies, I'm going to assume the best. Unlike you, that's a weird thing to assume all this weird stuff.
No, actually, what's kind of weird to me is that you assume that anybody who picks up a kid without proper verification and background check doesn't check in for months at a time.
Proper verification and background check?
What do you know about the parents? What do you know about the people who are picking them up? What do you know about the cousins?
I've read that these people go through background checks and they are sponsors, usually family members. You don't sound like you've read anything about this. You just have some fantasy you made up about me being able to go pick up an undocumented child. Why don't you and I go try to get one later? We'll see what happens.
I have a question.
I bet he has tried. I bet he has experience doing that. That's probably why he's so defensive here.
Where are you possibly coming up with that, since I've actually said the opposite?
You want me to name the article? You can go Google it yourself. Maybe you'll learn something.
Which article specifically are you talking about?
Man, when you get home, go on Google and type in, how are undocumented migrants' children released and what is the process? You'll read all about it.
I can read all about it, and one of the things that I've read is that the immigration services in this country have not done proper follow-up.
Well, you read it on Gateway Pundit? Or
no,
what?
on Wall Street Journal, at the Department of Justice, in all of the legal claims by the federal government. Yes, this is in the New York Times. Okay,
I just want to make sure we're on the same page. 300,000 children are being exploited in America right now.
That is not the claim.
Okay,
the claim is that the federal government does not know where they are. Oh, that is the claim, and
So
that is
what
absolutely valid. Do you know where they are? Do you think the federal
Do you
government
think
knows
the
where all of them
federal
are?
government should be
I have a question.
tracking
Why is it,
everybody?
I think that the federal government has a responsibility to release children who come across the border only to people for whom there is follow-up available. Yes, and I find it very bizarre that you're totally fine with people signing off on handing over children to people who merely claim to be relatives without any follow-up whatsoever.
Why do you say merely claim? You don't know what that background check
Because
is like.
usually you should have evidence that that is in fact the case.
How
And
do
the fact
you
that-
know it's not?
Why is the
So
assumption that it is?
your claim is that people are taking out kids like library books and not providing the proper identification and background
your
information.
lack of concern about what happens to those kids when proper verification and follow-up is not done
Because
seems
you guys
disquieting to me.
create fantasy scenarios where things.
I'm gonna be honest, man. It is always the people that downplay this shit the most that end up having CP on their hard drive or a sex slave in their basement or some shit. It's always some type of guy like this that is caught up in this shit, bro.
Things that aren't happening. Are there cases where some children are going to be exploited? Of course, there's tons of people in this country.
So
We're
what
the
should we do
third
to stop
largest
that?
country in the
So
world.
what should we do to stop that?
Well, you sound very passionate about this. Maybe you should write your Congress member and say we should tighten up these laws and make it mandatory instead of voluntary.
In order to do that, one of the things you might want to do, close the border.
The border is closed, Ben.
No, it is certainly
Yes, it
not.
is. Yes, it is.
It is certainly not
Do
closed.
you think the border was closed under Trump?
No, I don't think it was fully closed under Trump.
Oh, so you say Trump failed at closing the border?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Interesting.
Donald Trump should
So
have
why
done more.
Yeah, Donald Trump could have done a better job. Yep.
You want him back in there if he's going to fail again?
Because he did a better job than Joe Biden, who let in
Why? Joe Biden
6.5
has
million illegal immigrants.
Joe Biden has the exact same border encounters right now as Trump at the end of his administration.
I have a question.
If Trump was on pace to let in 900,000, if that was the case, a year.
I have a question.
So what was happening in the world at the end of Donald Trump's administration? So Donald Trump is trying to navigate an election, and COVID is ripping the world apart. So he's comparing right now, and I don't even know if the number is true, but let's assume he's right. Let's assume he's not lying. He probably is lying, but let's run with this. Joe Biden doesn't really have a whole, I guess he doesn't, I mean, no, he really doesn't. Like, he's got to worry about the Ukraine situation, the Israeli situation. I don't know, sure, he's not running for re-election. So we're comparing Joe Biden's numbers right now to Trump's numbers when the country is literally on fire. He's campaigning, and COVID hysteria is at an all-time high.
For you. Sure. Why is it that after a president allows in, through pure executive order negligence, having walked back the executive orders that created the policies that you're now praying, I mean, if you want to call it purposeful, call it purposeful. They were, on day one, they reneged on Remain in Mexico. They changed the standards by which asylum was claimed.
Mexico's got to play. It takes two to tango. Mexico didn't want anything to do with Remain in Mexico.
Remain in Mexico was the American policy. It was Joe Biden who walked out on Remain in Mexico.
There's also a small number of people. It's like a couple tens of thousands of people.
The unprecedented level of illegal immigration is apparently totally fine with you under Joe Biden.
No, listen, we need more people in this country, Ben. There's no legal means for them to come in that are reasonable. So these people are forced to come in through the southern border because there's no other way.
There are hundreds of thousands of people who come into this country every year legally on visas.
Yes, and that process is...
I have a feeling that if you ever got this guy to concede a point, if you ever forced him to acknowledge that he, was wrong about something, I have a feeling that the very next day, if you had the same conversation, he would revert back to everything he said.
It's difficult. We need a lot more people than hundreds of thousands.
So you're making a case for broadening legal immigration, but you are not setting any standard or numbers by which we are supposed to adjudicate whether this is good or bad.
That's not my job. All I know is it's too difficult
So you're not making an argument at all. You're making an argument that basically we should just legalize everybody who wants to come into the country.
Not at all. I'm fine with the number.
You have not set a number. You have not set a standard. You have suggested you're utterly fine with what happens to minors if they are released to adults without proper evidence.
I have not.
You have suggested that there is no major problem with exploitation of children being trafficked over the border.
I'll go with Trump's number, 1 million a year, because that's what he was on pace to let in by the end of his administration. 75,000 a month equals 900,000.
Okay, thank you.
Holy shit, that guy was bad.
Good for you, dude.
Hey, thanks. Tara, to meet you. So I'm just really unclear about what of her policies.
That's a curious way to sit in a chair.
Do you think are bad? Because I'm not sure I heard that yet.
Okay, the revocation. I think first we have to define what we think her policies are.
Yeah, please do.
Okay, so there is the policy that was implemented under Joe Biden, and then there's the policy that she seems to have adopted over the course of the last 45 to 60 days when she was actually running for president, where she seems to have adopted many of the prior immigration policies of the Trump administration. So which one do you think is actually her position is sort of the open question about Kamala Harris? I'm assuming that the record of the Biden administration provides a pretty good track record as to what she would do with the border where she made president.
I mean, I think what's really clear that I feel like you've overlooked a lot is that a lot of the things that Joe Biden has done that you don't love are because he first tried to do things the right way through legislation. But Congress won't do it. So I guess my question for you is, what would your plan be for Kamala if not to try to get a law through Congress when Congress won't pass them?
I'm perfectly happy for trying to get a law through Congress, provided I, actually like the law. I mean,
yeah, sure.
But if you're talking about what she could do day one, I mean, she could actually continue to enforce the newfound enthusiasm for border security in the run-up to the election.
What is this this Hassan Canute thing? I'm gonna go to LSF. Maybe it's there. I don't know. Sorry, I'm having my lunch right now. I'm trying to scarf. Let me see here. Oh, here it is. Okay, this is Canute calling out Hassan. Uh-oh. What do you do?
You're a smart guy. Yeah. So people will be like, oh, well, Dr. Mike should know X, Y, and Z. That you can get in trouble on his stream. I mean,
we can't get in trouble on the stream. What are they going to do to us?
Exactly. They're not going to do shit.
Well, they get canceled. We're on YouTube. We're on a real platform, guys.
He's famously left.
Yeah,
I do understand that. Yeah. Which is curious that maybe he just doesn't know my political views, but I'm not left.
No, he's very, I guess like his position right now is
terrorism, which is left.
He supports.
It's just support.
Hold up, what did Canute say? He supports terrorism. Is that what he said?
I guess like his position right now is
terrorism.
He openly supports terrorism, is what he said. Okay.
Which is left. It's just supporting.
They're just holding back because they don't want to get in trouble.
No,
and they know him.
Insane.
No,
the shit that comes out of your mouth is so thoughtless sometimes.
No, so I don't really know much about Wake. Is this guy Wake more progressive? I have no idea anything about him.
This is the reality.
This is real confrontation. This is great Twitch stuff. Confronting. The money's coming.
So update the title, guys. Drama.
So this is when I would update the title and put drama in it, so that way there's a huge fight that's going on.
Mm-hmm. Supports terrorism. God, dude, Canute is so based. Listen, you want to know something? There is a 1-to-1 correlation between testosterone levels and the degree to which you are conservative. And I have a feeling that Canute has, if I had to guess, probably 5 times an average man's testosterone levels. I think Canute probably has a lot of testosterone. That's my guess. That's my sneaking suspicion.
Joe Biden has now implemented to remain in Mexico, revising asylum, and all the rest of that.
Setting aside your characterization,
I mean, that's actually what he did.
How? Sure.
Okay.
Whatever you say.
Remain in Mexico,
which is fraught with rape. Remain in Mexico has been found to be really dangerous for the people who are stuck there.
Okay, and
the U.S. has to take illegal immigrants, otherwise they're going to get raped in Mexico. So we have to take them. Oh my God.
It is also a fact of the matter that if you're talking about controlling the border, remain in Mexico is a better way to control the border than simply releasing people into the interior with a come back to court date.
So you feel that would be better than, say, funding border security and related agencies to house those people safely?
It is generally not a
We should not be funding housing for every illegal immigrant that wants to come to the country. No, we should not do that. No.
Matter of funding at the border. It really is not.
Then what is it?
It is a matter of how asylum is actually interpreted. So the way that asylum was interpreted for a long time was that you had to show by a preponderance of the evidence that you actually had a legitimate asylum claim.
That's not that different now.
And
it's not that different. No.
Yeah.
This claim is over. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. It's getting good though. My next claim is the Israel-Hamas war would not have started under Donald Trump.
Ooh. Here we go.
It's good. This process has gotten more conciliatory over the course of time.
Okay, so what evidence do you have to support
Mohammed?
Okay, so the latest reports from the New York Times of internal papers from Yahya Sinwar suggested that he was essentially counting on Iranian interference and help with the October 7th attacks, and that was incentivized by the fact that Iran was attempting to forestall any sort of deal between Israel and the Saudi government for Saudi to join the Abraham Accords. It was very well known at the time, and I happen to know, that the Saudi government was very much ready to join the Abraham Accords if Donald Trump had been reelected. If that had happened, that would have forestalled Hamas action, because the incentive to have done what happened on October 7th would largely have been gone at that point. The entire purpose of that attack was to prevent the formation of a broader Sunni-Israeli alliance in the Middle East.
Do you think the incentive of October 7th was simply Iranian plot?
I think that the Iranians were certainly interested in facilitating the Hamas attacks, and without Iranian...
I think we should take all the Palestinian people and we should distribute them into small towns all across America. Because then everybody's happy. Then Israel gets to have Palestine, and then small towns in America are enriched with Palestinians, and everybody's happy.
And support would have been very difficult for
I
Hamas
want to ask you, do you think that the conditions in Gaza in any way factor into October 7th?
I mean, I think that the conditions in Gaza to have done what happened on October 7th would largely have been gone.
We just skipped back.
And without Iranian support, it would have been very difficult for
I
Hamas
want to ask you, do you think that the conditions in Gaza in any way factor into October 7th?
I mean, I think that the conditions in Gaza certainly factor into support for Hamas. As far as the specific attack of October 7th as opposed to rocket attacks, the distinction between, for example, continuous rocket attacks that have been happening since 2006 when Hamas took over the Gaza Strip and the wide-scale terror assault of October 7th is sort of a difference in kind.
Since 2005, what has Israel done to the Gaza Strip to formulate or allow kind of the otherization of the Palestinian people who live in the Gaza Strip?
Well, I mean, in 2006, Hamas took over, promptly killed everybody who's associated with the Palestinian Authority, has never held an election since, and has been running the place with an iron fist.
No, I want to understand now, with an iron fist, is Hamas the one who is putting forth the land, sea, and air blockade in the Gaza Strip?
The land, sea, and air blockade is specifically because Hamas is in control of the Gaza Strip.
Now, I'm confused, because if we expect that the October 7th attacks only happened because Iranian influence in the area, I don't see how 17 years of a land, air, sea blockade will happen if that's not a symptom to allowing people basically pressure cook its way into something like that happening.
Okay, the idea that October 7th was specifically as an incident caused by...
Listen, here is the real... I see the comment. They always start in the middle of the story. If you want to start peeling back the layers of the Middle Eastern story, the layers of the conflict in the Middle Eastern story between these various groups, it's like an onion that has no center. You just keep on peeling back layers. You'd have to go back thousands of years, like genuinely you would. You'd have to just peel and peel and peel and peel and peel. Well, it all started in 1948. No, it didn't. Well, it started in... No, it didn't. No, it didn't. It just it never ends. And this is why we need to recognize... We need to overcome our own ego and hubris as the American empire that we are. We need to say, listen, we just need to totally divest from all of this, okay? Let these people figure it out. No more money, no more support, no more aid, no more tolerating it domestically on our own soil, protests, riots, the burning of public property. We're shutting that down. We're out of it. And then people say, oh, well, you did this. America did this thing in 2005 and therefore no, we don't. Yep, we did and we're done. Nope, stop. Nope. Yep, we did do things in the Middle East. Yes, we are responsible for some things in the Middle East. Yes, we are. And now we're done. If you want to blame us, sure, you can blame us, but we're done. We're not doing anything. We're done. No more money, no more support, no more aid, no more involvement. Nothing.
Movement between Hamas and Iran and Hezbollah and coordination between those groups for geopolitical reasons is the claim. If the claim that you're making is that October 7th was sort of an inevitability based on the conditions on the ground in the Gaza Strip, that's not exactly how I think foreign policy works.
No, I'm saying foreign policy works in the sense that you can't ignore the overlying cause of an issue. So now when we talk about the Abraham Accords, do you not think that the Palestinian people not involved in the Abraham Accords plays any part into the region remaining unstable, specifically with these two groups of people?
The region got specifically much more stable while Donald Trump was president because of the Abraham Accords.
Again, I don't know how you can go and quantify that when the Palestinian people are not involved. 2023 was the
Statement.
deadliest year for Palestinian children on October 6th,
I feel bad
according
about
to a
my
UN
lunch right
report
now. Thank
published
you,
on
guys.
October
Thank
6th. Now, if we go and keep ignoring the Palestinian
My wife made a delicious homemade beef stew with also, by the way, homemade sourdough bread. It is nice. I'm trying to scarf it. We can get back to it.
Palestinian problem, then I don't understand how we can continue to act like forging partnerships between Gulf Arab countries is going to promote stability to the region when we're leaving out 2 million people in Gaza and then 2 million people in the
I
West
mean, it
Bank.
was promoting a lot more stability in
For
the
who?
region.
For
I mean,
who?
for the Saudis, for the Bahrainis, for the UAE. For,
And then yeah, October 7th still.
Looks
You're
like
telling me
shit.
October 7th still happened because of geopolitical
Literally.
reasons in that area. If the Palestinians are not addressed in the Abraham Accords, why do you think that there was a need for October 7th to happen?
I mean, the reason October 7th happened was specifically because of the confluence of Palestinian desire to put the issue of Palestinians back on the front pages and an Iranian desire to use that as a wedge issue to destroy the Abraham Accords.
Front pages as opposed to what? As opposed to it being silenced through political plays under Donald Trump to promote these Abraham Accords that, again, don't achieve the root issue.
Once again, as an American, you are totally allowed to just not give a fuck about this and not want our country to be involved in any of this. And we can say, yeah, regrettably, we have been involved. We have sent money and military aid and weapons and whatever. We have had a hand in this in the last 100 years or so. We're not going to be involved anymore. We don't care. You guys figure it out. Good luck. I hope nobody dies, but we are not going to be involved anymore. That's a totally reasonable position.
Issue of the problem. The Palestinian people cannot be left out of the table when it comes to a resolution or an accord dealing with the conflict.
I mean, okay, so the root issue of which problem specifically?
Of the problem. Do you agree with the legal settlements in the West Bank?
With the illegal settlements? I mean, so it is...
First, do you consider settlements illegal?
No.
Under international law, it's considered illegal.
That is not true.
I mean, the UN and most international...
There are approximately 520,000 Jews living in settlement in the West Bank, which are legal under Israeli law, but considered illegal under international law. The UN, EU, and US have all said these settlements are illegal. Uh-oh! Busted.
Foreign bodies have decided that those settlements are legal. Now, do you think that that's just a case of...
I think the UN is trash. But
so that's what I was going to say, is that if the UN is trash, if nobody around this area can be brokered into as a third party, if Israel's not allowing third party investigators to come to the Gaza Strip and determine what's happening there, who can justify, who can have the moral authority in the region and say that this is what's happening?
The IDF. The IDF has the authority.
That this is a reason of this, or that putting them towards the backside of the conflict is this reason. I need to understand from you, what's your prescription for the area, for the Palestinian people? Are you like Ben Gvir, who says that there's three options: willful emigration of the Palestinian people, like live under subjugation as a second-class citizen of Israeli rule, or third, die? What's the option?
No, I mean, moderating and then electing a government that is worthy of actually governing its people and not stealing billions of dollars from its people, either the Palestinian Authority, Islamic Jihad, or Hamas, would be an excellent start.
So I need to understand, do you feel like they have the opportunity to do so when they're under the...
Yeah, I mean, like, this is obviously a little bit retarded. Like, so Ben is just telling, well, listen, hey, Palestinian people, if you don't want to be bombed to fuck by the IDF, you should just have an election and vote out Hamas. While living under their regime and also being bombed by us. You should just trust the democratic process, Palestinians. Like, I don't know about that. I don't know.
Subjugation of 17 years of a blockade by an occupying power. If for 17 years, since the disengagement of Israeli settlements in the Gaza Strip, Israel was able, by the flick of a switch, to turn off the electricity, water supply, and fuel reserves. Right now, we know that in the north of Gaza, up until...
Dude. Educated. Thank you very much. Listen, I gotta say, every sub on Kick is fucking nuts because the rate, over here is 95.5 as opposed to 70.30. So thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate that, bro. Thank you. That's huge. That's huge. I'm actually almost done eating. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your service. Thank you. Thank all you guys.
Today, 2 weeks went by where no humanitarian aid was going in. There is no Rafah border anymore. There is no humanitarian going through there. It's been demolished.
Okay.
And then in the other...
it's not true that humanitarian aid is not going in. Actually, just a couple of days ago, 100 trucks...
Just a couple of days ago, because since October 1st...
Dude, I read a fucked up story yesterday. It said that there was an airdrop in the Gaza Strip, like a fucking crate, using a parachute, floating down to the ground, full of supplies and shit. It landed on a kid. This crate landed on a fucking 3-year-old kid and crushed him. And I read this on Twitter. I guess it could have been fake. I don't know, but it's like, dude, fuck, that's terrible. That's fucking terrible. Drew Bruce, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That's huge. Why was he under it? Well, I mean, okay, so first off, we must acknowledge those things probably come down pretty fast. I don't really know. They're probably pretty fast. And then also, three-year-olds are not really known for being hyper aware of their surroundings. So it's just a depressing. I mean, fuck. Hey, listen, bro. I hope it's not true. Shit. Hey, Drew, thank you again. Thank you very much.
There was no aid going to the northern part of Gaza.
Because there are ongoing anti-terror operations in the north of Gaza.
So does that mean that the civilians who are in the northern Gaza are not subject to humanitarian aid because there's a military action by an occupying force?
It means that there's no actual excellent way of distributing that aid. This has been a major problem with the humanitarian aid throughout. The last time they sent 100 trucks, this is what I was going to mention, they sent 100 trucks of humanitarian aid in just a couple of days ago.
Before October 7th, 500 trucks were needed to sustain life in Gaza. 100 trucks were supposed to say thank you?
At least half of the aid is being stolen by Hamas and then resold at higher prices.
I need you to understand that almost every international humanitarian rights group says that this humanitarian crisis is man-made. It is man-made.
I agree that it's man-made.
And I know who you think the man is.
Yes.
I'm telling you, there's only...
It's not Hamas. Wait, does Hamas have any agency here at all?
I'm telling you that right now, if you want fair...
the Palestinians have any agency here at all?
The Palestinians absolutely have agency, but again, with an occupying force, what does that agency limit to? If a Gaza fisherman can't go 6 miles past the nautical line that Israel has arbitrarily placed, what agency is there to
Why do you think that Israel placed that line?
Again, that's what I'm telling you, is that how
Just
do you
for fun
expect...
or what? Do you think Israel wants soldiers in the Gaza Strip?
Again, here's the thing.
Because they literally pulled that road out in 2000.
So, I think Israel wants these Gaza Strip Palestinians fucking gone. I think there is nothing Israel wants more than for all these Gazans to get the fuck out, to either leave or die, or I'm totally confident of that, 100%.
I know that high-level cabinet members in the Israeli government right now is saying that we're going to resettle in Gaza. That this is the plan. That we're not going to release
position in the Israeli government.
Now, do you agree with that position?
No, with the resettlement of the Gaza Strip, no.
Okay, so you want the Gaza Strip to remain Palestinian land?
I'm perfectly happy for it not to remain Israeli land, but that doesn't mean that it can be governed by the current entities that the Palestinians are choosing to govern themselves. The last entity they did, Israel pulled out in 2005. A terrorist group now ruled the region and then promptly used it to build kilometers of terror tunnels that outsize the London subway network.
I want you to understand, Ben, that there is no way for any type of democratic institution or process to happen in the Gaza Strip when there's an occupying force who will go and subvert it. If you have Israeli parliament
so they don't have agency.
If you have, I mean, it's hard to when there's an occupying force.
Like, does Ben actually think that the Palestinians should just vote right now, have a referendum, vote to get rid of Hamas, while Hamas is actively subjugating random Palestinian people, and then also Israel is actively bombing them? Like that actually is what he thinks they should. Oh, just do it. Oh, hey, just do it. Forehead. Hey, bro, why are you homeless? Just get a house. Just get a house, bro. It's like that level of logic.
Actually, is not that hard not to vote for terrorists.
It 100%.
It is not.
It's not. It's 100% impossible for you to go and make that distinction when there is no alternative. Right now,
that is not true. There's not an alternative.
No, there is no alternative to life under no occupation for the Gaza Strip. Again, I'm asking you simply, is that right now, if you have Israeli parliament members, Knesset members who are saying that we plan on resettling Gaza, that this is not
Israeli land. A government position.
No, again, these are people who can fracture the government of Israel.
You know, it is a government position. The government of Hamas that is currently holding 100 hostages, including babies. This war would be over today.
And the hostages should be released, and no civilians should be involved in the conflict.
Should Hamas surrender?
So I want to ask
Hamas surrender?
I think that there should be no civilians involved in this.
Should Hamas surrender?
Surrender to who?
To the Israeli government.
Will the Israeli government stop bombarding civilians if that is? Because
if Hamas surrenders, yes.
Because right now we saw them march from the north to the south of Gaza, and they said that the whole goal of this war was to what? Was to return the hostages, correct?
I mean, there was a dual goal. One was to destroy Hamas,
now,
and the other was to return the hostages.
See, that's the thing. When I come to the table to argue with someone, I want to assume that there's good faith, not that there's a dual goal or dual ambitions in the process.
Of course, there's a dual goal.
If
there were no hostages, the singular goal will be the destruction of Hamas.
Okay, now understand this. Netanyahu will continue to project this war because he's facing crime and bribery charges. So there's no, again, I need to understand, Ben, if there's
There
no...
was a full-on unity government in Israel, including his opposition, until a couple of months ago.
And so his unity government will not let him end this war, except the ceasefire deal, because they can fracture the government. Yes or no?
No.
Can Ben-Gvir, if he decides to call for snap elections, can him and Smotrich not decide that this is what we want to do, and Benjamin Netanyahu is immediately supposed to, run for prime minister?
If there were snap elections today, Netanyahu, first of all, is leading in the polls. But even if he were not leading in the polls, Benny Gantz, Gadi Eisenkot, Naftali Bennett, people who are actually running in the election against Bibi Netanyahu, would be pursuing extremely similar policies in the Gaza Strip, simply because Israel cannot allow Hamas to continue to govern the Gaza Strip.
Awesome. So,
dude, I'm just gonna say this like, I'm just like random American dude. My family has been in America for almost 400 years. My bloodline. 1635 is when the first of my paternal line showed up. We've been here a while, almost 400 years. I am so sick of American political discussion almost always every year being focused around the best way to handle the fucking Middle East. Like, why is this part of being an American? Why is it imperative that every American have an opinion and a stake in what goes on in the fucking desert all the way on the other side of the world? Why do we have to be involved in this? I don't know why.
So then the hostages are placed second to this. So this isn't about, like, there can't be two dual goals.
Of course there can.
How?
Why could there not be two
Because
dual
one
goals?
of these goals is completely antithetical to returning to the last one.
What? How?
Because when
in fact, they are deeply connected. If Hamas does not surrender, how are the hostages getting back?
Again, I'm saying because every operation that dealt with returning the hostages involved the death of arguably more civilians and more hostages in the area.
Connor!
Good to meet you.
Good afternoon.
Hey, Ben, nice to meet you.
Before we get into this, so I guess the Joe Rogan Donald Trump thing is just not going to happen today. I think they recorded it today, but it's not happening until probably tomorrow. I'm not going to be here tomorrow. So, by the way, I'm probably not going to be able to watch the Donald Trump Joe Rogan thing until I'm back in town on Monday. So you guys will have probably seen it by the time I come back, and then we watch it together. So you guys are going to get to watch it twice. Which means after this Jubilee video with Ben Shapiro, there's a Tyler Oliveira video I want to watch. There's a James Klug video. There's some other stuff we're going to talk about. But nothing Joe Rogan today. I was hoping we'd have it, but we don't.
So just returning to the prompt that the war in Gaza wouldn't have started if Trump were president.
Yes.
The reason that I disagree with that so vehemently is just looking at history. I don't think that the bombing of the Beirut embassy would have happened if Jimmy Carter had won in 1980. I don't think that Nixon is responsible for the 6-Day War. For the Yom Kippur War. I don't think that if Dewey had defeated Truman, that Israel wouldn't be independent. Israel is a sovereign state. They make their own decisions based on their own security issues. We're both Jewish men. I think we can both say that Jews are very independent and that we don't need to be told what the U.S. government wants to be able to make our own decisions.
You know what? I agree with you. Jews are independent. Israel, I believe in an independent Israel, and I think the U.S. should not send any more money to Israel ever again. I'm with you. Israel independent. That's my stance.
So for all those reasons, again, just looking at the history of the region and how all these other wars developed because of situations on the ground, I just think that it's unfair to say that either political party in the United States is responsible for the war-making policy of the Israeli government, whoever is in charge.
Okay, but we're not discussing the war-making policy, which was a response to October 7th. The claim was really whether October 7th would have been launched by Hamas, knowing that Israel has complete military superiority over Hamas, which Hamas must have known. Why that gets launched on October 7th, why that didn't happen, for example, under Donald Trump or any time in the intervening 17 years from when Hamas took over the Gaza Strip. And the rationale that I'm suggesting is that basically, the Biden administration came in, they decided to take an antithetical view to the Saudi government, not just the Israeli government. They came in, they were very unfriendly to Saudi Arabia, for example, delisting the Houthis as a terrorist group. They started to draw closer to the Iranians in an attempt to pursue a revision of the JCPOA. They attempted to draw distance between themselves and the Israeli government. Hamas saw this, Hamas and Iran saw this, and they decided that the best way to put pressure on the Abraham Accords more generally and to forestall any prospective peace deal between the Saudis and the Israelis would be to launch the attack right now.
See, and what I would argue is what was much more relevant to the launching of the attack on October 7th was Yahya Sinwar being released by the Israeli government in exchange for the name of the soldier is escaping me. Gilad Shalit. Thank you.
That happened 10 years ago. I mean, that was 2 decades
I know, and I think you would acknowledge that the sophistication of this plan would have taken years. I don't think it was planned in relation to anything the U.S. government was doing. Again, I point to all of these other attacks and wars that happened over the year that had nothing to do with who was in power in the White House. It had to do with specific situations between the Palestinians and the Israelis.
Okay, chat. Do you think the October 7th attack would not have happened? Let me give a statement. The October 7th attack would not have happened if Trump was in office. Yes or no? It would not have happened. Yes, or it would have happened. No. I think it probably would not have happened. I think if Hamas carries out October 7th and Trump is in office, I think Trump probably goes on a giga bombing spree, like a giga, don't you think? I think he probably does. Trump seems to really like Israel. He likes Israel a lot. I think so.
And I just don't think it's helpful
He loves it.
for us to pretend that the U.S. is the determining factor in this war. I think you would agree.
Well, the reason it's helpful, I think, is because when it comes to foreign policy, this goes to sort of a root issue about foreign policy that's rather interesting to discuss, and that is the belief that when the United States draws away from American allies, when the United States draws significant distance with American allies, particularly in regions of
drawing away from American allies. That's Trump that did that. He's the one that says NATO's a bad idea and us being allies and having an internationalist foreign policy is a bad thing.
To be fair, the actual policy of President Trump, which was to actually increase the amount of funding from each NATO nation into NATO.
No. That was Obama. That was Obama in 2014.
That was.
Okay. It was.
They increased the amount of defense spending under NATO.
Issue.
Yes, and that was what.
But Obama's the one where the policy was actually implemented.
Well, no, the policy was also
about the 2% goal.
The increase happened
and
under President
on top
Trump.
of that, NATO expanded under Biden. So
NATO expanded under Biden as a result of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. It didn't expand under Biden preemptive to the Russian invasion of Ukraine.
No, I'm not arguing that. But I'm saying if the question is.
However, the Biden admin, specifically Kamala Harris, just a couple days prior to the Russian invasion, was talking. There was the 2021, right, or 2022? 2022 NATO summit, where Kamala Harris was in Europe and she was talking about how great it would be if Ukraine joined NATO. She was saying she can't wait. She thinks it's a great idea. She'd love to have Ukraine join NATO. This is Kamala Harris. Must have been 2022, right? Anyway, within 2 days, I think Russia had invaded Ukraine. 2 days after that,
is who has been more dedicated to our system of alliances overseas? It's clearly the Democratic Party.
I mean, that is clearly not true. If you're talking about what has effectually made American allies,
dude, her head is on some crazy shit. This chick's head is nuts. It is nuts.
Stronger? The answer would not be the policies of the Biden administration. I mean, if we want to talk Ukraine, we can. We can talk about the slow walking of aid to Ukraine throughout the Ukraine war. I'm a big advocate of the idea that the United States actually should have pursued a policy of rushing more aid into Ukraine and then pursuing an off-ramp as soon as possible, sort of Henry Kissinger's suggested policy early on in the war. But if you're talking about...
So then we would agree that it's a mistake for Republican congressional officials in Congress to cut aid to Ukraine. Okay.
Yes. When it comes to the Israel-Gaza war, the Israel-Hamas war, which is what this led off with.
Yeah.
Again, my contention is that the timing was driven specifically by a desperate hope by Hamas and Iran to break the burgeoning Saudi-Israeli and Sunni-Israeli alliance that was happening in the Middle East. And the best way they could see to do that was to launch an attack to bring up the issue that had largely been sidelined by the Abraham Accords, because it turns out that a great way to make a deal between countries that disagree on issue A is to make a deal on issues B, C, and D.
But that presumes that the Sunni-American alliance against the Shia Iranian-backed alliance only started under Trump, and that's just clearly not true. We've been aligned with Sunni-led governments for at least the last 50 years.
The realignment of the Middle East under President Obama.
The alliance with Saudi Arabia goes back to World War II.
I mean, of course, that's true. It's also true that Barack Obama's distancing from Saudi Arabia in favor of, for example, the JCPOA, which Saudi opposed, so did the Israelis, so the Bahrainis, so all the countries of the Abraham Accords. And then the return to that ideology under Joe Biden exacerbated potential conflict in the Middle East.
Okay. Oh, dude. Okay, so we have another 7 minutes of Middle East, and then we have 11 minutes of January 6th. I think we probably wrap this video up. We're getting a little bit yap, and we're getting a little bit resident sleeper. I think we probably wrap this one up. Holy shit. Yeah, maybe another time we can read the clean break thing, bro. Not right now, though. Not right now. This is a little bit yap.